And we are recording. It is December 7th, 2025, everybody. It is dynamic duo time because that's what the dynamic duo does. Our third wheel is off doing stuff with what he calls a family, which I know is a nice word to use. I'm just joking. His kid has a basketball game today, so that's why he is not with us. But that doesn't mean we still can't pick on him and make fun of him and all the other good fun stuff.
It's a horrible, horrible day to have a basketball game. It's kind of gray and grim outside, not very warm. Not as cold as it was on Friday and not as cold as it's going to be tomorrow, apparently, but it's still kind of one of those days where it's like, oh, what's the point of going outside?
The chill
But
bug just gets to you.
yeah, it was really cold up here on Friday. It was below freezing, so it's just
Listen, I'm going to say this. I usually, so on Fridays, I have one-on-ones with my boss, right? Weekly one-on-ones. And he's in Georgia. And he was like, man, he was like, Joe, don't mind me. I just came back and got my food. I'm like, yeah, no worries. He's like, it's cold as hell outside. I'm like, well, what's the temperature? He's like 47. I'm like, shit. I go, I said, North Carolina is getting like, it's North Carolina has gotten colder sooner. We've gotten the cold temperatures sooner than we normally get. Like this year, as this has been a very cold October and November. We've had some days where it's been like in the high 70s, but then the next day it's like 42. He's like, "What's it down? What's it up there?" I'm like, "Dude," I was like, "It's 35 today." I said, certain areas got sleet and rain and all kinds of shit." And I said, "My son had a 2 hour school delay because of the sleet." I said, "It's like I feel like I'm in Pennsylvania right now." And he starts laughing. He goes, like, "Oh shit, I better shut up. That it's not that cold where I'm at." And I was like,
well, at
"It's
least
all
he
good."
acknowledged that because yeah, I mean, I think I've made reference to it before, when I was at Notre Dame, which can get very grim winters, with lots of snow,
Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
cold temperatures and everything. Now, whilst I never heard anybody who would fit into this category say it directly to me, there was always that perception that it was like if a student was at Notre Dame and came from like a warm water, Jesus, whew, warm weather part of the country, like Southern California or like anywhere in like the South, like Florida or Texas or anything like that they'd always bitch about like how cold it was and everything. And it's like, dude, you had to understand this was going to happen when you decided to come here.
yeah.
Um, but like I said, I never had somebody, and one of my closer friends from when I was there was a guy who was from Southern California. He never complained to me about like cold and snow and stuff, but um, yeah, so it was like yeah, you got to deal with it. Now,
It
the reason why I'm complaining about how cold it was up here on Friday is that, it is December, but most of December is still the fall, it's autumn. Winter doesn't begin until December 21st. So when
that's
we're
just a
getting like,
date. That means nothing to me anymore.
yeah, when we get sub-freezing temperatures before the actual winter solstice and everything, it makes me go, oh shit, what's the winter going to be like? And of course, since I'm in different environs here, um, temperature control is still a little weird for me in this house. Like there are times I've been cold and there was times I haven't been, and it's
Yeah.
kind of random and I can't quite figure out why. And then, trying to of course share bathroom and shower facilities with two other people. It's like there's always going to be that battle for hot water and shit like
Oh
that. So
yes.
like when I got in the shower yesterday morning, the water didn't get very hot, even though I had it set fairly hot and I wasn't really sure why, but I was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm taking a quick shower.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very quickie.
And like
Between
tonight,
those extremities and everything else can wait.
yeah, and it's like, excuse me, the weekend days are the only days where I can try to shower in the morning because, I can't try to do in the morning on weekdays with my sister and my brother-in-law, with when they have to. So I was, take showers at night. And so like yesterday, I asked my sister, "Do you have to take a shower tomorrow night?" Meaning tonight. And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "All right, well, I do too. So we're gonna have to coordinate."
It's a challenge. It definitely is. It's weird. Like you know what's crazy, Pat, is that January 4th, I will be in this state for 8 years.
That
I've
is kind of
lived
crazy.
I've lived in this state for 8 years, which is just still it still baffles me. I mean, time really does go fast the older you get, honestly, which sucks, but I mean, it is what it
Mhm.
is. But yeah, I'll be here for 8 years, which is it's weird thinking about that. Um, I've
And
been
shit,
away from you guys for 8 years, man.
Thanksgiving was already over a week ago, and it's like, what? Yeah, Christmas is less than 3 weeks away, and it'll be here like tomorrow.
I know it's like it's the 7th of December. We're almost there, technically. I mean,
Oh yes, yeah. Hey, December 7th. Hey, it's Pearl Harbor Day.
I mean, it just, and the other thing too was like, I had days left. So I have a, I always make my Christmas, the days we get off for Christmas, right? I always kind of extend it because
Hmm.
we have Christmas Day off, we have New Year's Day off, right? So like depending on the days fall, I take vacation days in between there and before that to make like a big extended. So basically like my last day, I work, I have every Monday off in December. So I have like 3-day weekends, right? So the 22nd, I'm off. The 23rd, I work. And then I'm off and I don't come back to work until January 5th because I was originally going to do it where I came back on the 2nd of January, which is a Friday. But I told my boss, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be uh, uh, ready to come back on the 2nd. He starts laughing. So we're actually switching systems. We're going from ADP to Workday, and it officially takes place on the 15th of December. So that the 15th of December, which is funny, we're able to start. They gave us like a memo saying we're able to start taking our vacation days or planning our vacation days for 2026. So I'm telling him, I'm going to put a sick day in for January 2nd. He starts laughing. He was like, okay, no problem. So I'm gonna make that an extended, Christmas vacation in regards to that, you know. So um yeah, I like to do that. So this month is going fast for me because of the days off I have and all that jazz. But kind of reverting back to our other conversation about the cold, it is one of the things though I've noticed where when I first moved down here, I kind of would laugh at people down here when it would get like in the 40s and the 50s and people breaking out their like parkas and like winter caps and all that shit. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's not that cold. But then when you live down here in the summers
Hmm.
and it's like, and I'm not joking when I say this, like when you live down here the humidity gets high, but it's not like a humidity where it's like up north in PA or in Florida where it's like that very high moisture where you walk outside and you start sweating and you're dripping all over the place. It's a hot heat and it's weird. It's hard to explain. It's like the humidity gets high, but it's not like that high moisture humidity, right? But when you have a full month where you're in the 90s every single day for a whole month. And then the next month, it's like 3/4 of the month, you're in the 90s and you get a couple of days of relief of being like 87, 88. And then you get days where we've had, I think this past summer and the summer before, we had it where we were in the hundreds for 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row. So when you have those days and then all of a sudden it goes from like the 90s to like 40, I mean, you got to think about that. It's a 50-degree drop. So I kind of get where it gets chilly for those people. But for us up north, we're kind of used to the cold. So, you know, because we deal with cold weather more often than not than down south. So we're kind of just get accustomed to it. But I can see why people get they start getting cold when it's in the 40s or 50s, like my boss. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like it's a huge temperature change, and it's one extreme because like the summer heat down south is just it hits different than the north. So it's just kind of like your body gets used to it, and then such a temperature drop, it's like woof, that's a slap in the face. I enjoy it, but
Yeah.
others not so much.
Well, it's like yeah, it's all about like what you're used to and like what your body
Yeah.
adapts to because like you said, you get accustomed to something being one way, you can, when the temperature changes one way or the other is going to be how you react to it. So it's like it can be 65 degrees, and depending on what time of year it is, you can be wearing a t-shirt and shorts, or you can be bundled up head to toe. It's like when it gets 65 degrees in, like, say, late September, early October, when you've been used to it being, like the 80s or 90s or whatever, that's when you're going to be like, oh my God, it's so cold. But if it's like April and you've been used to, the winter weather, and everything, it's like when you hit that 65 degrees, oh my God, I'm going to go out wearing shorts. It's so gloriously warm.
Yes. And it's one of the things like for me, I mean, 40 years of my life, I've lived up north, the Midwest and the Northeast, pretty
Mhm.
much the Chicago area, cold ass fucking winters that stay cold longer till it gets warmer in the spring and then move into Pennsylvania, kind of the same shit. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So, and then now I'm in a state where it's kind of like it's the total opposite, where it's pretty much mild, mild winters, mild falls, mild springs, things like that, where when it gets this cold, it's kind of like, ooh, it's kind of a shocker. But yeah, you do get used to it. I kind of feel like even though yesterday, I think it was like I went to our storage unit to get Christmas decorations out. I had a hoodie and shorts on, and it was, oh God, I forget what time. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. It was only like 37 at the time, 38. I went to the storage unit and there was like these guys with, you know, their Carhartt, clothes and Carhartt jackets on, like bundled up. And here I am with a hoodie and shorts on.
Yeah.
And they're kind of looking at me like, bro, you cold? Like, nah, not good.
Yeah. Hoodie and shorts. There is no greater contradiction in clothing except maybe um gosh, I want to try to say something with like a tuxedo, but I can't really the tuxedo and shorts, I goes, I don't know, like wearing like, like a jacket, bow tie, and shirt, and then yeah, you got shorts on, something like that.
Listen, all I need is my hands and my feet to be stay warm, and I'm good. Like the hoodie just keeps my arms, kind of warm. My legs, like they, my legs getting cold doesn't bother me for whatever reason. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
affect me. Put
Yeah,
it that way.
see, so I always tell people, oh, I don't get cold that easily. Well, I'm noticing I'm getting colder a little more easily as
Yes, because we're
starting
getting
to get
old.
older here. But it's like
It happens to me too sometimes.
it's
It's
still a matter of what for me, because it's like there'll be plenty of times where it's like, okay, I need to wear gloves, and I have pretty good gloves that are nice and thick and keep my hands good and warm. But and that'll be like, say it's like cold morning. It's like first thing. It's like, let's say if I have to scrape my windshield, you know, or something like that, and it's like, oh, driving, oh, I got to get in. Well, once the car gets warm, I kind of like, all right, I don't really need the gloves anymore. I don't really wear ball caps anymore. I really haven't been for a while. But like I have like the wool hat, which you have to cover my ears. But then problem is I'm always wearing glasses of some kind, whether it's the sunglasses or whether it's the what I call like my night glasses, which I also wear on days where it's like cloudy
gotcha.
outside.
And
It's
that's
hard to have the wool hat on with wearing those glasses, because the wool hat's obviously going to go over the ears and it's going to go over where the ends of the glasses are. And it's like if those get jostled, then you're getting all kind of screwed up and everything.
yep.
So I only wear the hat like if I feel like it's absolutely necessary. Like if it was like if I had to go outside in like in the snow to do something to like shovel or something, then I would definitely be wearing that. But yeah, so
No, no, I definitely get it. I
Mick
definitely
Jagger said it best, man. What a drag it is getting old.
yes, 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 it is. Yes, it is.
Now we know why old people are always yelling at younger people. Now, of course, now that I'm a slightly older person, I always say, well, that's also because younger people today are totally stupid. But
That's another topic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're the smarts of these kids these days. I don't know not know where their common sense be at. That's for sure.
well, I mean, yeah, my sister tells me about like her kids not really fully understanding like what television is in a way, because it's like they just watch it on their phones or tablets or streaming and everything. And
It's the trends too. The trends are
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
The TikTok trends is something that just drives me up the wall.
Yeah, well, Jim Cornette's co-host Brian Last on the most recent episode of their podcast was saying about how his daughter doesn't even really seem to understand what television is, because he said she wanted to watch Dancing with the Stars, and he's like, "All right, fine," It's like I don't watch Dancing with the Stars, but if you want to watch Dancing with the Stars, go ahead. And he said that she put it on through Hulu. Now, meanwhile, he said he was like trying to tell her, you can watch it through Channel 7, which is the New York market ABC station, for those who don't know. Uh, on the television, he said his daughter looked at him like he was speaking, a foreign language. Uh,
Like, what's
she
that? Is
just
that a rotary phone? What are you talking about?
right. She just says, and the funny thing too was like he even said, and this is something that I've noticed too. Though I don't understand why it works this way. I'll get to that in a second. But he's all like, well, actually, maybe it's the same thing. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. He said that he noticed like he turned it on channel 7 then like on the TV in the other room and that was like a minute ahead of like the Hulu feed or something like that.
Mhm.
Now, here's the thing. There have been times where I'm on the phone with my dad and he's watching like the same sports game that I have on my TV. He's got DirecTV, I've got YouTube TV. And he's always like a play ahead. Like we were had the Indiana Ohio State game on last night, and he was telling me about Mendoza completing like a long pass to Ohio State's like 30-yard line or so. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm about to see that. Then I look up and then like, yeah, that play happens. So
It's weird how the feeds are like not synced, but I think it really takes place of what service you're watching because how
yeah.
up to date that feed is because of how it's distributed.
Yeah. So in Brian last example there, if he turned it on and he has like straight cable still, which he must, um, and that's coming in before the streaming app. That I totally understand. I guess I don't understand as much how the satellite would have it before um, a streaming app because YouTube TV is still essentially a streaming app.
Yes.
So that one was a little weird. And yeah, there's also like plenty of times where I found this during baseball season a lot. If you turn like the Gamecast on, like MLB.com or ESPN.com or probably any other website, and you have like the game on, and it doesn't really seem to matter like where the game is on through. Like that Gamecast is going to be like a pitch or two ahead of what you're seeing on your screen. So it's like you can't ever follow. And that's another thing I noticed too with this college football season with having the YouTube TV again. Um, Watching that, like so I go to the ESPN scoreboard page so I can see like a bunch of games, like what the progress is going on. But I found that like if I'm have like the game on the TV and I'm looking to see what's going on in the Gamecast, like it's gonna spoil what I see on the TV. So it's like I always have to make sure it's like I'm not looking at that. Yeah, because I still want to watch it unfold as if I was like watching
Yeah.
it live,
I do know what you're talking about because I know like when I'm watching, you know, the Cubs game, like on the MLB app, right? I'm watching the game and there's like a man on first and second and somebody's up to bat and all of a sudden my phone goes off saying that Cubs now lead 2-0. Well, god damn it, it's still 0-0 on my screen right now. I'm like, son of a bitch. It's like, okay, let's see how they score these 2 runs. It's like, god damn, like it happens a lot because there's times where like I'm on my phone and I'm watching the game on my phone and there's the game's like has no score or it's tied or whatever and all of a sudden my alert drops down saying that like they just gave up 3 runs or they scored 3 runs and I'm like I haven't gotten there yet, god damn it, like what the fuck.
Yeah. The joke that some of my Yankee friends would make when we're like following along a game, during the season, like one of us will kind of like maybe like excitedly put a comment in our Discord servers like, in play runs, like it always says, before like any of us actually see it. So it's like,
Yes,
damn it,
yes,
stop spoiling the shit, you son of a bitch.
I know it's crazy. It's one of those things like god damn it, some bitch. Yeah, it happens. It's just a weird how like the feed goes and the delays and all that jazz and how it kind of works. There's a lot that shit that goes into that stuff.
Yep.
um Real quick, I wanted to where do you want to go to? You want to go to where you want to go pro wrestling, or you want to
I
pivot
want
to
to go to there.
the college football playoff, or
Let's talk about the college football playoff because
oh
we
right,
are
let's
mere
look.
hours as we're recording,
Yes,
mere hours away from
someone will be
someone being
pissed off
very
after
pissed
we stop
off.
recording. um Dude, I will say this. I did not look at the complexity of, let me start with this. I did not look at the complexity of the tiebreakers for the ACC, but I think it is a ridiculously joke that Duke, even though they did win the game last night, I was hoping they wouldn't, but they did. Um, were able to actually make it into the ACC championship game, which is just a stunner to me. And to be
Yeah,
honest with you,
yeah,
I'm going to say this.
because he had a five-way tie
Yes, and
for
they
second place. You know,
and they won.
five teams went 6-2, and because of however it went, the team that was had the worst record going into the game, the worst overall record
Ended
was
up
the
getting,
team that went to the game.
yeah, that technically finished second place to face Virginia. Listen, I think Virginia kind of took that game for granted last night, as some of the stuff I was watching. I don't think they played down to Duke's level, unfortunately, um, which cost them the game. But
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Duke is by no means a bad team or
No,
anything,
no,
but
not
yeah,
at
it's
all.
like their whole thing was they lost two games in conference to Virginia, ironically, and Georgia Tech, who was one of the other teams that they tied with.
Yep,
And they had three out of conference losses to Illinois when Illinois was ranked number 11,
yep.
to Tulane, who of course is going to be in the playoff in all likelihood, and UConn, which is, UConn I think had a decent record, but still it's, UConn, yeah, UConn went 9-3. Uh, but the problem was also for Duke, they didn't beat anybody.
No.
Their conference wins were NC
But
State, Syracuse, Cal, Clemson, North Carolina, and Wake Forest.
sorry,
So
this is their best win the whole season was last night.
right. So literally all of the other teams that they tied with, SMU, Miami, Pitt, and Georgia Tech, they went 0-1 against those four teams.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And then if you look at their record,
it
like
was very fluky.
they
Yeah.
Duke had the worst record for out of those the tiebreaker teams. They had the worst top 25 record.
Yeah. I
Like they
mean,
had
and
no
they had the
top
worst
20.
overall record because they
Yeah.
were 7-5 coming in. SMU and Pitt went 8-4, Georgia Tech went 9-3, and Miami went 10-2. Now, here's the counter, of course. You say about how it's ridiculous that Duke is, and in a way it is, because I won't even pretend to understand what that final tiebreaker was. We're not going to try to rehash
They
it or explain it
they
because we'll
they
be here
talked about
until
it on the
next
local
year.
TV down here. And they kind of explained it, and I was like, they need to change that shit because this is ridiculous.
They probably do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they will. But so for the other four teams who did not get to the ACC title game because they lost that tiebreaker, as Samuel L. Jackson said in Pulp Fiction, "Oh, well, allow me to retort."
Duke does not belong in the college football playoff. That's for damn sure.
Well, they're not going to be. I don't see if they're going to be. So anyway,
ACC champion or
we'll,
not, that's I'm
yeah,
sorry.
we'll get to that in a second. So Georgia Tech, you wanted to be in that game. You know what? Don't lose to NC State.
Yep.
Don't lose to NC State, who went 4-4 in the conference and 7-5 overall. Pitt, you want to be in that game? Well, they lost to Louisville, and Louisville was a bit of an enigma. They went 4-4 in the conference, 8-4 overall. But Pitt,
SMU is the one that blew it the biggest because they lost to
But Pitt,
Cal.
you want to be in that game? Don't after you beat a week after you beat Georgia Tech, get blown away by Miami.
Yes,
Yeah. SMU, you want to be in that game? Um, don't lose to Cal and Wake Forest by a combined 4 points.
correct. Yep, that was
So
their downfall. It
yeah.
should have been SMU. They
And
blew it.
Miami, you want to be in that game? Don't lose to Louisville and SMU.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to get into something there with Miami and Notre Dame in a minute, I'm sure. But again, to just to get into that ACC title game, it's like and this is going to be a theme of something we're going to talk about in a second here. Any team that's going to be shut out of the playoff today, and you want to whine about getting left out of the playoff, and you may have very legitimate complaints. Like whoever gets left out is going to have very legitimate arguments to say why they should have been there.
Uh, Unfortunately, yes.
But in every single case, it's going to come down to you wanted to be in the playoff, you shouldn't have lost that game you lost. And every single team that's going to potentially be left out of the playoff today has a loss like that.
Yep. They all do. Legitimately, they all do.
They literally, you know what, I'll just go to that right now. Okay, so the teams that I guess you could say, I think we're all pretty set that the top eight are Ohio State. This is where they were ranked coming into this weekend. Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Mississippi, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. They're all in, no questions asked. It looks like probably both Tulane and James Madison will get the other two auto bids because this is the way the whole thing with Duke. Yes, it's like the ACC champion is supposed to automatically get in. Well, no, not exactly. It's the top five ranked champions. So Indiana, Georgia, and Texas Tech are all locks. Tulane and James Madison were ranked 20th and 25th coming into this week. Duke, of course, was not ranked.
And they
There's no
won their conference champions, so that automatically boots Duke out of it.
Right. There's no way Duke's going to be ranked ahead of Tulane and James Madison. So Tulane and James Madison are
Oh,
going to be your 11 and 12 seeds. So
there's
we've got our top eight and we've got our bottom two. So you've got two spots left over for some combination of Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, Miami, Texas, and I'll even throw Vanderbilt and Utah in there too because they also only have two losses. So let's go through them real quick, real quick. Alabama, you shouldn't have lost to Florida State to start the season.
you got that right. We saw how Florida State season turned out.
Or you shouldn't have lost to Oklahoma by 2 points at home. I mean, Oklahoma's obviously another playoff team, so it's like, yeah.
Yes. I
And
mean,
and you may,
that's a
and you
little
maybe
different.
and you maybe should have shown some life against Georgia yesterday. I was especially because you beat Georgia back in September.
Listen, I was happy Georgia fucking hammered them.
I was too, because an Alabama loss is helps Notre Dame's case, but um is just kind of like I was surprised by how much Georgia dominated them. So anyway, so that's the
Yeah.
argument against Alabama. Notre Dame, if you get left out, well, you should have, I wouldn't even say the Miami game so much because
No, because
opening game of the
Miami's a top
year,
25 team. So that's
opening game of the year on the road, it was raining for half that game. I remember all that very, very well. So, but the way that they lost to Texas A&M,
yes, that's the game. That's the key game for them.
because they botched an extra point at the end, and then there was only like 2 minutes left on the clock, and they let Texas A&M drive 74 yards in 2.5 minutes because their defense didn't know what the hell it was doing yet at that point. So if Notre Dame gets left out, you shouldn't have lost that game to Texas A&M at home, you know?
I mean, overall, though, I mean, two legit top 25 teams to lose to. But with that being
Right.
said, yes, absolutely.
Right. And see, that's the thing. It's like Alabama can say, yes, well, we beat Georgia the one time. We also beat Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's not bad. Yeah, Notre Dame's best win, unfortunately, is against USC, Navy, and Pitt, so they don't have the
So,
same caliber
yeah,
of
but
games,
so
unfortunately.
Alabama
And
lost.
Boise State, I guess.
Alabama had that bad loss to Florida State. Then they just lost to Georgia. And who was their third loss to? I forget. Oh,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
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 That's the other thing too. So like no, they haven't put a three-loss team in the tournament or in the playoff as of yet. If they're going to bend over backwards for fucking Alabama, anybody who wants to say that
And
if
if they do,
if
that's
they do
fucking
that, if they
sad.
put a three-loss Alabama team in just because they got to the SEC title game, when they haven't put a three-loss team in this playoff as of yet, then anybody who tries to say there isn't an SEC bias just needs to shut the fuck up because there obviously is then.
There is if they do that. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry. There is.
Yeah. Okay. So BYU, you want to be in the playoff? Don't get drubbed by Texas Tech twice. It wasn't just that they lost to Texas Tech. They got beat 29-7 and 34-7.
Yeah. Texas
And
Tech has their number.
and unfortunately their best win was Utah. And after that, probably Cincinnati. So they
Yep.
don't have a lot of quality wins either. Um, Miami, we just said you want to be in the playoff, don't lose to Louisville and SMU. And their best win was Pitt, or no, Notre Dame. But after that, it's Pitt, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Texas, you want to be in the playoff? Don't lose to Florida.
Yeah. I mean, they're 9-3. They're not making it.
Yeah, Florida went 4-8, So yes, Texas beat Oklahoma and Vanderbilt and Texas A&M, but you also got drubbed by Georgia and you did lose to Ohio State. That's the thing. This was a discussion I was having with our friend AJ because he's a Texas fan and obviously going to advocate for his team. He was kind of defending what Sarkisian was saying about, well, it doesn't make any sense to play a tough out of conference schedule, obviously. Let me be Judge Judy here. You played one tough out of conference game against Ohio
Yep.
State.
One.
and you played them tough, but you lost. But there are other out of conference games that were against San Jose State, UTEP, and Sam Houston. San Jose State went, I think, 3-9. UTEP and Sam Houston both went 2-10.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about your tough out of conference schedule.
One game.
You played one tough out of conference game.
Yep.
Um, and the reason why you're not going to get there is because you lost an in conference game to a shit team in
Yep.
your conference. So I don't want to
Florida.
hear that. Vanderbilt, Diego Paiva trying to say Trump needs to make some executive order to change the play. Shut up.
I'm so tired of people bringing politics. Politics
Right.
has nothing to do with this. This
But
this
but
is
but yeah, but
just stop.
Vanderbilt, you beat LSU when they were still ranked highly in South Carolina, but they turned out to be blah. Missouri and Tennessee are decent wins, but you lost to Alabama and Texas.
Yep.
So, and Utah, it's kind of the same thing as BYU. You lost to Texas Tech, you lost to BYU. Your best win outside of that was Cincinnati, Arizona State,
Yeah.
So you
Listen,
want the moral of the story is if you wanted to be in the playoff, uh-oh. If you wanted to be in the playoff, you needed to do more yourself.
yeah.
Plain
So
and
we
simple.
think
You
so we
needed to
think
not lose a game you lost.
so we think Tulane's going to be the 12 seed then.
Tulane will be the 11th seed and James Madison will be the 12th seed, is what I'm guessing.
Okay.
We gotta pause. I gotta take care of the dog.
Oh, no problem. Back to play. All right.
All right. Sorry for
Um,
the interruption, folks.
no worries. So
The joys of taking care of an elderly dog.
yeah, yeah. I like my point I was just gonna make. I mean, Tulane beat a top 25 team and they're in their conference championship game. James Madison won convincingly. I just don't think you could take a unranked Duke team and jump those two teams to put Duke anywhere sniffing close to a college football playoff,
Well,
unfortunately.
yeah, and here's the thing: we want to use like head-to-head matchups and shit like that because obviously we're saying, "Oh, Miami beating Notre Dame should be enough," and it's like,
Not all
yeah, I totally understand that argument. And if I was a
it's
Miami
it's
fan, I'm
part of
sure
the
I'd be
equation, but it's not all of it.
right. And if I was a Miami fan, I'm sure I'd be making that argument. But it's like it was a Miami home game. It was the first game of the year, so it was 3.5 months ago. It was a 3-point game. It wasn't like a blowout, blah blah. But hey, Tulane beat Duke.
Yep.
You know, Tulane's two losses. One of them was inside their conference to Texas San Antonio, which is kind of a bad loss because they got beat by 22, and they got destroyed by Mississippi earlier in the year too. Um, but again, they won the games they were supposed to win. James Madison's one loss was to Louisville. But again, they won the games they were supposed to win inside their own conference. They went undefeated in their conference, so they didn't really play a lot of other tough out of conference games. Their other out of conference games were Washington State and Weber State. And I think
Yeah.
well, no, it has to be one other one, but I'm not sure who it was. Mostly because I can't remember who is and isn't in conference or the Sun Belt. Oh, I'm sorry, it was Liberty. Liberty was their other non-conference game
Mm.
because Liberty's in Conference USA. James Madison's in the Sun Belt.
And on the flip side too, it's one of those things where I get where coaches are like, we played the teams we were scheduled to play.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. I
And
didn't
yeah, and,
know.
and and you
I,
can't help if a team that you scheduled 3 years ago when they were good is now mediocre.
yeah. So that's the biggest thing. Like when you're playing these teams, like you're creating these schedules ahead of time. I mean, look, there's um like Florida State has like non-conference games against like certain teams like every other year. So you don't know, this is scheduled ahead of time. They're like, oh, for the next, three battles every other year. So for the next 4 years, 5 years, you're going to be playing this team every other year, but you don't know how it's a good team. You don't know if they're going to be good at that time. And a lot of these schedules are made, years in advance. So it's one of the things where if you want to have a tougher non-conference schedule, you need to start when your agreements with these other smaller schools and FBS2s, whatever the hell they want to call it these days. Um, when those agreements are done, you need to start trying to figure out and go into other teams and be like, hey, you guys have openings. Let's schedule a game. Make it more challenging for your team.
Yeah.
Um, because these cream puff games, I'm sorry. And this goes to all the teams, even the teams that I root for. They need to get rid of these cream puff games. I'm sorry. It
Well,
doesn't really do
you know
shit
what?
for them. It's a stat patty most of the time. It really doesn't do shit.
That's the thing that I bitched about with the SEC for years is that they play these cupcakes in November because they can say, well, we start our conference schedule earlier. That's nice. But then because you're using this whole media narrative that's built up about, well, every week's a playoff week in the SEC. So then you go and you schedule your soft ass games here the third week of November so you can all catch a breather. So it's like, yeah, every week might be a playoff week, but you know what? There is not as much pressure on a game in September as there is in a game in November. If you fuck up in September, you still have time to recover. You fuck
Yeah.
up in November, you don't have as much time to recover. So,
Hence
um,
why they schedule those games in the end of the year.
right. Well, you talk about again the whole thing about you don't know if teams are going to be good years down the road. So I'm looking at Notre Dame's future schedules. Like they're doing a home and home with Texas in 2028 and 2029. Yeah, that's 3 and 4 years from now. They're doing a home and home with Alabama in 2029 and 2030. Again, we don't know what Alabama will be like. They're doing a home and home with Indiana in 2030 and 2031, Florida in 2031 and 2032. They're bringing Michigan back on the schedule in 2033 and 2034. Shit, the guys who are playing in those games are in fucking fourth grade right now.
They're middle schoolers.
You
They're
know,
elementary school and shit.
so it's like, yeah, you have no way of being able to predict this shit. Now it's like, can you reasonably expect some of these games to not be challenging? Yeah, sure. Like, Penn State, Jesus. Notre Dame has Rice on the schedule next year. I
Yep.
don't know when they scheduled that, but Rice hasn't been good for a while,
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's one of those things. And let me ask you a question. Do you think Notre Dame should pick a conference to go to? I believe they do. I know they had their TV rights deal, but if they would go to a conference, I think the conference they go to, that conference should just let them have their TV rights deal. And all the rest of the money for that conference's TV rights just goes to those teams until Notre Dame's deal is done, and then they can work out something at that point.
well,
I
see
just
that.
I just feel it would be beneficial for Notre Dame at this point because there's just too much shit going on
Well,
with all
see,
these other conferences.
this is the thing that my dad's been harping on for years. This is one criticism he's had for Notre Dame since before he became a Notre Dame fan, since before I went to Notre Dame and everything, is that Notre Dame should be in a conference, blah blah blah. I don't know. I have mixed feelings, and the main reason why we know that the reason they won't just outright join a conference is always going to come down to the finances because everything does. Notre Dame's had a deal that's worked very well for them for a long time, so I can understand why you wouldn't want to give that up. Here's the issue right now. So they play this like half ACC schedule, where they play like 5 ACC games a year. They're in the ACC for every sport but football.
Yep.
My dad has always wanted them to go to the Big Ten, especially ever since Penn State went to the Big Ten. There's no room for them in the Big Ten when you come right down to it. The good old Big 18 as it is now. Um, you
I
know,
know.
geez, if you don't think Big 18 has a ring to it, Big 19.
Let's just add
Anyway,
another. Let's get to Big 20.
anyway, there are issues going on though in these conferences about certain schools not liking the financial arrangements. There's a shit going on right now between Michigan and the Big Ten. And I think USC, who just came into the Big Ten, is complaining about it too. And I think there's complaints with somebody in the ACC, Florida State, right?
Yeah, it was Florida State and Clemson, but I think they've settled that already. They've
Well,
come to a agreement to settle that based off
well,
some shit they renegotiated or redid.
yeah. But so my point is, why should Notre Dame be willing to join either of these conferences if the current member schools of those conferences are having issues with those conferences and Notre Dame's got a deal that's working for them?
Yeah.
That above all else is why they're not going to do it anytime soon. Something would have to drastically change. And they're insisting if they get left out of the playoffs, so it's like, oh yeah, we don't get to go play in those conference championship games, but oh well. If that's the way they want it, that's the way it'll stay. And of course there is that inherent built-in arrogance. Not ever going to deny that. I was there for 2 years. I fully understand what the attitude becomes. You get caught up in it without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just the way it is. It's like, so I can't see that Notre Dame was going to go leaping to join a conference in the next 5 years. Let's just say that. Beyond that, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
We don't even know if this country is going to exist in 5 years at this rate.
Oh, Jesus.
What? That's all I said. That could be for any number of reasons. All right.
I know, I know, I know.
Hey,
Uh,
just to real quick, just to I just want to pile on to this because they're my other team, of course, Penn State. Here's Penn State's non-conference schedules the next 3 seasons. All right.
oh boy.
Next year versus Marshall, at Temple versus Buffalo.
Oof.
2027 versus Syracuse versus Delaware versus Temple. At least Delaware's FBS now.
Yeah.
And 2028 versus Ball State, at Syracuse, and versus UMass, who this year went winless. Um,
Oof. That's a
that's not
doozy right
that.
there for you.
Yeah, it's like that's not exactly challenging yourself in any way. And of course, this year they played Nevada, Florida International, and FCS Villanova. But hey, Villanova beat Lehigh yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I saw that.
Lehigh was undefeated. Yeah, my sister and I were coming home from the movies, and the back roads we take between the promenade
Was that like
shop.
14 to
Talk about
7 they
like,
won? Was it?
yeah, we were seeing like the traffic like leaving the stadium and everything, and we didn't know that's what it was until like I got home and it was like I was looking up the Northwestern Lehigh state championship score, and I saw that Lehigh was in the. I was like, oh, I didn't realize Lehigh was playing at home and blah blah blah. So Northwestern lost, unfortunately, to the team that they beat in the state final last year. It was Northwestern's first loss since they lost in the state final 2 years ago.
Oh shit. That's a
They
long
had a
time.
31 game winning streak.
Okay.
But it wasn't all bad for teams from my area for high school. Southern Lehigh won the 4A state championship, their first ever. So,
Yeah, you know what? Pennsylvania has gotten a little crazy with all their districts and
well,
level
because
two, three, four.
they expanded from 4 classes to 6 classes a few years ago, and so it's like I never remember who's in what class until I have to look it up again every year. So Northwestern was in the 3A, Southern Lehigh was in the 4A. And like my dad and I always say that this area is District 11, and that we always say they never get enough respect, even though they've had more than a few teams win state championships over the last couple of decades. And I say, well, the reason for that is because the biggest schools are not ever the ones that win those state championships. The 6A schools as they are now, the
Yeah,
Eastons and Parklands and Liberties and Whitehalls and Nazareths, they aren't the ones that go on to win the state championships. And
no.
Easton got bombed in the state playoffs this year. And unfortunately, Easton always has this attitude of, oh, well, we got to beat Phillipsburg.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo. That's a rivalry. That what does that do for you for your state championship? Fucking
Yeah,
nothing.
because Easton plays Phillipsburg every Thanksgiving. And unfortunately, that
Whatever.
game's right in the middle of when the playoffs are going on. And what was ironic this year is both Easton and Phillipsburg lost in their state playoffs the week before their game.
Who won that Easton Peeber game anyway?
I don't know. Um,
I
no,
can
not
care less
football.
if Easton loses. Easton can go, whatever. They're a bunch
Yeah.
of arrogant dickheads.
Oh, Easton won big, 35-6.
Oof, that was a
That
blowout.
was continuing the recent success in the historic rivalry after Easton also won in 2024, which they won in overtime, and Phillipsburg had won the previous 2 years. So yeah,
Gotcha. All right, so Easton won. Whatever. They
yeah.
lost their playoff game. That's all that matters.
I know that's the whole thing. It's like I'm sure they're going to be like, "Yeah, we beat Phillipsburg," and it's like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
the bigger picture is you got blown out in your playoff game, people.
right." Let me pull up the bracket here for the 6A playoffs. Oh yeah, you played yeah, the weekend before Thanksgiving, you played LaSalle College, which was one of the District 12 teams, which was one of the Philadelphia area teams. And this is the thing my dad has. My dad says ever since they let the Philadelphia area teams into the state playoffs, they always rig it so that that district, which is District 12, always seems to match up with District 11, always beat them. Yeah, LaSalle College beat Easton 49-7.
You know what?
LaSalle College won the state championship then.
You know what though? I don't feel bad for that happening because I think Easton has that school district has had such a big head for such a long time. Yes, they have like the most wins in the state and one of the top programs in high school history for wins and all kinds of shit. But yeah, bring some of the big boys down from Philadelphia into there to playoffs and see how well they do. That's where the proving ground has to go through now these days, which I'm fine with.
Well, yeah, it's like, yeah, Easton, there's a certain arrogance, but like, here's the headline from uh, a few weeks ago. Easton brings best to big stage, ends 15-year District 11 football title drought. So it had been 15 years since they'd won the district championship, let alone ever winning a state championship, because I don't think they've ever won a state championship. I could very well be wrong, and I just tried to do a search to find that, and I can't
I
seem to
don't
come up with it.
remember. I
Oh,
know
I'm
that.
sorry. No, wait, hold on. He's won 6 state championships. No, that's not football. Yeah,
I
that's
know
wrestling.
they have a shit ton of district champions.
Oh, okay. In football, they secured state titles in 1939, 1958, and 1968 by poll. So it wasn't they didn't want a playoff. It was a poll. So they haven't won a state championship since it mattered. Let's just put it that way.
So they just have a shit ton of like victories and district championships then.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
And
the
again, it had been 15 years since they'd won the districts, but yeah, so let's just put this in like this a bit of historical context. The last time Easton won a state championship in football, the White Album had just come out.
oh, too
Now,
funny.
Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones was alive.
That's crazy. Crazy with the time lapses.
And Richard Nixon was elected president. So
So do you think, so let me ask you a question.
okay,
Out of the top four,
top four,
Indiana's going to go to number one.
definitely. Georgia will be number two, and it'll be. I'll be interested to see where they seed Ohio State and Texas Tech
That's
because
going to be interesting. Like how
they're going to
far
be they're going to be 3 and 4, but I'm not sure who will be which.
that's my thing. How far are they going to drop Ohio State? You know what I mean?
Definitely no lower than 4. There's
Well,
no way
definitely not. But I'm just curious
there's no way yeah
because
there's no way they're getting dropped below the other one-loss teams who did not play in their conference title games, which is Oregon, Mississippi, and Texas A&M. That's definitely not happening. Even though, of course, Ohio State did not play Oregon in the regular season. So, but
because I mean, sorry, Texas Tech.
I think Ohio State will be 3.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to drop them that far, but it kind of I don't. I'm not sure. The other thing too is like seeding wise, just say all four. Eh, as far as seeding wise, who would play each other? Say the top four teams win their games, like per the bracket. If they all four win, who plays each other in the next round? That's going to be interesting. Are they going to do something where, ooh, we can get a Indiana versus Ohio State rematch? So let's drop Ohio State only to this spot so we can see if we can get that to happen again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're going to analyze it from where would we want a potential Indiana Ohio State rematch, the semifinal or the final? Because
Yeah.
that's the difference between Ohio State being ranked 3 or 4.
And it's kind of like we're Texas Tech, like, yo, we should be, I understand that Ohio State only lost by 3, but we went into our championship game and we destroyed BYU pretty much.
Yeah.
They
Well,
they whooped their ass.
this is interesting. So Heather Dinich's article on ESPN.com projecting the final playoff top 12. She doesn't think Ohio State's dropping lower than 2.
That's a bit ridiculous. I'm sorry.
I think it's hard to justify keeping Ohio State ranked ahead of Georgia. I
Yes,
think those are
considering the
two.
fact that
I think
Georgia just
I,
destroyed
I
Alabama.
I think those are two very good teams, and those are the two teams I think I would still kind of favor in this whole thing. No disrespect meant to Indiana, or Texas Tech for that matter. But I really still think Ohio State and Georgia to me are still probably the two best teams. But she thinks that Ohio State will be 2 and Georgia will be 3. So she has it projected as Indiana 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Texas Tech 4, and then Oregon 5, Mississippi 6, Texas A&M 7, Oklahoma 8, Notre Dame 9, Alabama 10, Tulane 11, and James Madison 12, which would make the first round games, which will happen in 2 weeks. James Madison at Oregon, Tulane at Mississippi. Um, didn't I say that they played each other during the regular season? Interesting. Alabama at Texas A&M and Notre Dame at Oklahoma. Now those would also be interesting. So like you don't get a Notre Dame Texas A&M rematch then either by Notre Dame being ranked 9. Alabama and Texas A&M though of course did not play each other during the regular season. That was the thing. I was looking at Texas A&M's schedule yesterday, and I was reminded of the fact that yeah, they were undefeated up until they played Texas and everything, but And again, you can only play the teams that you're scheduled to play and everything. But the schedule for Texas A&M ended up being extremely favorable this year because they missed out on Alabama, they missed out on Mississippi, they missed out on Georgia, and they missed out on Oklahoma. They literally did not play any of the other SEC teams that are going to be in the playoff.
Yep.
They played Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, and Texas beat them. And they only beat South Carolina by one.
And that's the thing. It's a
So,
rotational thing every year for who you play. And every
yeah.
year is going to be a crapshoot of how good they are. It's kind of like the NFL, where I get a little pissed off when people are like, oh, the strength of schedule is going to be so easy for this team. Well, yeah, you're basing it off the schedule of their opponents from last year. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's kind of like you don't know. Like that could change during the course of the season that these teams that had bad records last year, where you have such an easy schedule that some of these losing teams have start having a winning season. So then that just throws that shit out the wazoo in regards to that. So that's why I get pissed because they do that shit in the NFL too. And it's like, hey, people, you do remember this is a rotation every year. So you have your division games, and then you have your AFC opponent. That's a rotating between, which division you're playing, and the NFC, the other NFC conference division as well. It's a rotation. The only three games in the NFL schedule that you don't know who you're playing against is three games, and you don't know who that is until that rotation. That's also a rotation, but you don't know
And that's
who it's
based
going to
upon
be.
the standings. So like,
Yes. So if you finish first place, whoever the rotation of those division is, then you're playing that first place team.
right. So
Unless
like,
yeah, I think they have it so it doesn't match up. But yeah, so you don't know who you're playing in those three games. So
right. So if I'm a Giants fan, so I already know next year the Giants will be hosting the Cowboys, Eagles, Commanders, Cardinals, 49ers, Jaguars, and Titans. They will be at the Cowboys, Commanders, and Eagles, Rams and Seahawks, Texans and Colts. Those games are scheduled.
yep,
There are three miscellaneous games, if you were. They will host an NFC South team, host an AFC North team, and be at an NFC North team. If you go look at the current NFL standings, since the Giants are definitely finishing last, well, not definitely, but probably, they're only a game and a half behind the Commanders. Um,
for what that's worth.
yeah. Um, so hosting an NFC South team, that will almost undoubtedly be the Saints. We're going to finish last in that division.
Of course.
At an NFC North team, right now, that's almost definitely going to be the Vikings because they're so far behind the other three teams. It's very little chance of them catching any of those.
Correct.
And hosting an AFC North team, that could be either Cincinnati or Cleveland. Little
Mm.
hard to say because there was only a game separating those two teams.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, you always talk about strength of schedule. It's like, and this is something that frustrates my dad. So if you were to go to Tankathon right now to see what the draft order is for next year's NFL draft,
Mhm.
the Titans are number one right now because they're 1-11, worst record in the league. The Giants are number two because they're 2-11, and then you've got the Saints and the Raiders 3-4 at 2-10. So what's the tiebreaker? It's strength of schedule based upon this year's strength of schedule, and because it's like, well, if Team A and Team B have the same record. And regardless of whether those two teams played head to head, if Team A's strength of schedule was 502 and Team B's strength of schedule was 553, that means Team A is worse because they achieved the same record against a lower overall level of competition. So they're the worst team, so they get the better draft pick. So that's why the Saints are three and the Raiders are four, because those are those two teams' current strength of schedules. So where this will anger somebody like my dad is because the Saints beat the Giants, but as of right now, the Giants' strength of schedule is 538 and the Saints is 502. So if they finish with the same record, the Saints would have a higher draft pick, even though they beat the Giants head to head, because you're looking at the body of work, not just the one game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to say where some of these teams are going to face. I mean, the Giants and the Raiders play each other in a few weeks. So, according to a good old urinating tree, and then this week is sports ball videos on YouTube, that'll be a tank bowl, a tank bowl game. Um,
Oh yes.
but yeah, the Giants, their last four games, it's really going to be interesting to see how they perform because right now it's like I just want them to get the highest possible draft pick because they figure they have their quarterback right now in Dart, so they wouldn't need to draft a quarterback. So
Nope.
if they're picking in the top two or three, one of the teams that's desperate for a quarterback, assuming there's even going to be enough quarterbacks teams could be desperate for, because what we thought was going to be a strong quarterback class this year is thinned out considerably.
I don't think it's a very good one.
The two best look like they're Mendoza and Simpson, and both of them, well, Mendoza was okay, I guess, yes, but Simpson didn't have a good game. Because Manning's going to stay in school, Sellers is going to stay in school.
Yep.
Aller got hurt and wasn't playing well, and I don't remember who the hell else could be considered a top quarterback pick at this point.
Yeah, it's
Carson Beck, no, so. But anyway, the three of the Giants' last four games are the Commanders, the Vikings, the Raiders, and the Cowboys. So all of a sudden, that really hard schedule they had has kind of evaporated because the Cowboys are the only team that's left there that's playing any kind of decently right now. The
yeah.
Commanders are a mess. The Vikings are a mess. The Raiders are a train wreck. So the Giants could win a few games and fuck up their draft position. So it's like, do I want them to be competitive or do I want the best possible draft pick? Well, I think it's really ridiculous that they fired the coach and not the GM. I think they probably need to fire the GM too. So I should probably just root for them to lose at this point.
Yeah, maybe then the GM will be fired.
Yeah. I mean, I nothing really against the guy, but it's like just stuff hasn't gone right, and it's like there's you can say, oh well, it was more on the coaches that Jalen Hyatt didn't pan out or something like that, or that Deontay Banks has been a dumbass, and you obviously can't do anything about the injuries to guys like Neighbors and Scattaboo, but there's plenty of other things you could point to. It's like, why is their run defense still so shit? You haven't signed or drafted the right run stopping guys, or what? Why did you insist on bringing Graham Gano back to be your kicker when he was clearly hurt all the time again? And just really stupid shit like that. So, yeah, yeah,
It's just one of the things where you just don't know. So
it is. So,
since you brought that up, what
so yeah. So like I said, the playoff selection show I think comes on in an hour. Now I don't know how soon they're going to go start announcing the brackets and shit, but
oh yeah, it's at noon.
what I find really interesting though here too is this. ESPN is a little contradictory with themselves, all right? So so they have a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people who have been like picking their 12 playoff picks for weeks now.
Hmm.
There was this one guy who kept picking BYU over Notre Dame before this week. And when people got pissy with him on Twitter, he just like blatantly ignored them. Like I even point blank asked him after he posted somebody's tweet to him saying that he was an idiot for disrespecting Notre Dame, and so he's like kind of like reposting it and laughing at the guy for saying that. I just point blank said, "All right, then what are your criteria for ranking BYU ahead of Notre Dame right now?" And he didn't answer. It's like all you need to do is give a simple answer. It's like I just want to know what your thinking is because with just seeing a list of names, we have no idea. But anyway, that
Yeah.
guy has Notre Dame 9 now, and he doesn't have BYU in anymore. But the interesting thing is there are a few people who didn't have Notre Dame in their top 12. One person doesn't have him in because he's got Alabama and Miami at 9 and 10. And I'll get back to that guy in a second because it's really funny. All right. And then further down the list, there's two other people who again have Miami and Alabama in at 9 and 10. And so they don't have Notre Dame in. Now, why is this funny? Well, the first guy I mentioned, his top 12 was Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Mississippi, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Miami, Tulane, James Madison. Okay. That guy, Kyle Bonagura, is also one of the guys who, along with Mark Schlebeck, every week does the bowl projections. If you go to the bowl projection page that's there on ESPN right now, he has Notre Dame number 9 in the playoff. Did nobody catch that?
That's hilarious. That is
Did
hilarious.
he catch that? Then in one thing, he doesn't have Notre Dame in the playoff, and in the other thing, he does.
Makes no sense. Since you
And
brought up,
here's the funny thing about that then too. they're not just project. He doesn't just project like the bowl game match, the bowl game matchups for all the other bowls and the first round of the playoffs. He also projects how he thinks the playoffs are going to play out. So not only does he have Notre Dame in the playoff and playing at Oklahoma, which Mark Schlebeck also does, they also both have Notre Dame beating Oklahoma and going on to face Indiana in the Rose Bowl in the quarterfinal. Neither of them have Notre Dame beating Indiana, which is fine, but
Interesting.
they also both have an Indiana Ohio State rematch in the national championship game, which is interesting though because one of them has Ohio State ranked 2 and the other has Ohio State ranked 3. Georgia is the converse in both. So in both instances, they think Georgia will beat or Ohio State will beat Georgia in the semifinal, which they did. That's the funny thing too. They disagree on which game that's going to be. They both have number 1 Indiana against number 4 Texas Tech in the semifinal. One guy thinks it'll be in the Fiesta, the other thinks it'll be in the Peach, and then flip flop, for Georgia Ohio State, where the guy who has Georgia 2 and Ohio State 3 has that game as the Fiesta, and the guy who has Ohio State 2 and Georgia 3 has that game in the Peach. So I don't know, but
Jeez. So,
well, I'm also interested to see where Penn State goes. I think they're going to go to the Pinstripe Bowl.
oh, probably. So I was looking up since you brought up future opponents for the Giants. I looked at the Bears and see the schedule next year.
The Bears.
So it looks like the 3 games that we don't know is we're hosting an NFC East team.
So we don't know exactly where the Bears are going to finish, but if the season ended today, that team would be the Eagles because
Again.
they're both in first.
Then we'll be at an NFC West team.
Right now, that I believe would be the Rams. They're listed on top of the Seahawks on the ESPN standing page.
Yes, they are. Then we would be hosting an AFC South team.
Which right now
is Jacksonville.
I was going to say is actually Jacksonville because what is that?
Yeah, based off that's Jacksonville.
Jacksonville and Indianapolis are both 8-4 now because the Colts have stumbled a few times. I'm not sure how they're determining that tiebreaker because
I'd have to look it up. I'm not sure.
Well, this is the reason why those two teams have not played each other yet. This is one of those instances where we have more than a few of them here, where like division rivals haven't played each other yet, and will play each other 2 times in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season.
It's conference. It's conference because they're both 2-1 in the division, but Jacksonville's
so Jacksonville's 5-2, Indianapolis
Yeah.
is 6-3, and 6-3 is worse than 5-2. So
So the other teams we play the AFC East next year,
Yep.
and we play the NFC South.
Oh, so you've got a division that's got this year 2 good teams and 2 bad teams, and another division that's got 2 mediocre to good teams and 2 bad teams.
So it's the one good thing about playing the South is that the Bears play at Carolina. So that's a game I can actually get tickets to go to.
Yeah. Okay.
So that'll be cool. I could try to get
tickets. That'll be cool. Can you pause again?
I'll pause.
She has the great comic time.
And we're back. Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, we had a little pause there, people. Take care of the dog business.
Once again, the joys of taking care of an elderly dog.
So real quick, backtrack back to college football, and then we can veer off to another topic. Big Cat from Barstool Sports posted, he goes, this is his top 12 if he were the committee. He has Indiana 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Texas Tech 4, Oregon 5, Texas A&M 6, Ole Miss 7, Oklahoma 8, Miami 9, Notre Dame 10, Tulane 11, and JMU 12.
It could end up being that way. I'm not 100% sure why Texas A&M would be ranked ahead of Mississippi now, since they weren't going into this week. But again,
interesting take.
So in that bracket, Notre Dame would be playing Mississippi. See, that could work well for Notre Dame too, because Mississippi is going to be a very interesting case, of course, in this playoff, being that their coach abandoned them.
It's challenging like that.
Like,
first off, the whole schedule and how
it's annoying as hell.
Because not only the coaches, it's bad. It sucks when you have to put pressure on coaches to leave a team before the end of the season, especially a team that's, in the college football playoff. And it sucks when you have the transfer portal on the dates, the schedule. It's messed up. So no matter how you look at it, it's bad for the coaches and it's bad for the players. I don't demonize Kiffin for leaving or choosing to go to LSU. I just think that the time frame they give him to do this, I think sucks, to be honest with you.
No, it definitely does. I mean,
You know, and
it's
and there's a lot of people that have criticized him for doing it. I'm like, what are you going to do?
it's
Y-
not fair. It's not fair to the players first and foremost, of course.
Yes, not fair to the
It's
players that you're putting.
it's really not fair to the coaches either in a lot of
No,
ways. I
because you're
mean,
making them
because
choose before they should have to. And
right.
that's the thing. Change the goddamn schedule. Because to be honest with you, the other thing too I brought up, the transfer portal should not be open unless your team is season's over. You know what I mean? Or just have it where the transfer portal does not open until the day after the college football championship game. Because honestly, that really should be it. And then there should be a date for that too, for you coaching changes. Can't happen um until then. So you have to change your recruit. They need to change the calendar for the recruiting. I know a lot of teams are out of it, so they start recruiting earlier or however it works, but it's ridiculous. You're hurting your sport by doing this because people are going on TV blasting Lane Kiffin for this. I'm like, come on, people, get the fuck out of here. If you're in the same position, what would you do? You're going to do it. And he asked to sit there and coach the kids for the rest of the season. And Ole Miss could have let him do it. I think the kids would have been fine if he coached and like, yeah, our coach is leaving, but our coach wants to stay with us and see if we can win a college football playoff. You know what I mean? Like it yeah, and it just then you get into a murky waters with all that shit. And it's not fair. It's not fair to the kids first because now they're going into the college football playoff with a new coach. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and it's like I don't have statistics to back this up. It's really just like a general feeling and a trend that I have seen that probably is being fueled by a ton of confirmation bias. But like teams that like go to play bowl games when their coach bailed on them because he got a better job or he took a better job or whatever, I think traditionally those bowl games have pretty well sucked. I don't know since we've had the playoff that this has ever happened where a team that was in the playoff had their coach bail on them. I don't think so, but it's
I
only
don't
been a
think it
few years.
happens has happened yet.
It's only
This is
been a
the
few years.
first.
It's only been a few years of the expanded playoff and everything. So I'd have to go back and look. And unfortunately, I didn't do any prep. So I didn't check to see if that happened, but I
I don't
feel
think it
like
has
this is the
though.
first time it's happened.
Yeah, I think this is the first time. And it just sucks. Like, and this is another thing. They can say whatever they want, but college football, they have a lot of shit to work on, legitimately. Um, they have a lot to work on in regards to like, they can say they're making billions of dollars and they say things are okay, but there's tons of issues within college football, college sports in general. So the transfer portal stuff and all the stuff we've been talking about. Things need to change. Things need to be tweaked. The stuff has to be done properly in regards to this. But they'll say, well, we'll take the bad with the good, and they think the good's better outweighs the bad. Not for everything, unfortunately. So yeah, once again, players getting screwed, coach being put in a bad spot, and
Yeah.
this is what we have.
Now, I mean, you could definitely make the argument is like, why would you leave Mississippi for LSU? Well, LSU traditionally, of course, is a much more prestigious program than Mississippi. That's just the way it is. You
It's
can
just how
argue
it's
that.
been.
You can argue that with me until you're blue in the face, but it's like, when was the last time Mississippi, prior to really Kiffin being there the last couple of years, when was the last time Mississippi was traditionally any kind of like a powerhouse program in college football? When Archie Manning was there? So we're talking 60 years ago. It's like they really haven't been. They haven't
Didn't Eli
been.
play for Ole Miss?
Yeah, but well, okay, I guess maybe because you know what? That's a good question though.
I thought they were
Um,
pretty decent when Eli played for Ole Miss.
I want to check that now. Thank you for reminding me. It's like, yeah, I defend the guy to blue in the face, and I can't even fucking remember when he played in college or where he played
Well,
in
yeah.
college.
I know they had their struggles, but I thought they were a pretty decent top 20, consistent top 25 team.
So Manning was essentially a 3-year starter. He played a little bit in 2000, but he only threw 33 passes, so I'm not going to call that. So I'll just look
Oh,
at
yeah.
I'll just look at '01 through '03. In '01, Mississippi went 7-4, 4-4 in the conference. Um, hmm, that's very interesting. They didn't play in a bowl game.
Really? Seven
Yeah.
and four?
Were they?
That's odd.
Well, there were still less bowl games ago, but yeah. Um, okay. Uh, 2022, they went 7-6, 3-5 in the SEC. They did play in a bowl game. They beat Nebraska in the Independence Bowl.
Hmm.
Um, so mediocre.
Okay.
And 2003 with Eli's senior year, they went 10-3, 7-1 in the conference, finished 14th in the coaches poll, 13th in the AP poll. They beat Oklahoma State in the Cotton Bowl. So
Last year was the most successful, I guess. Other years they had winning records, but not
yeah, and then the next
not
year,
25,
and
30.
then the next year they were 4-7, and then they fired Cutcliffe, I guess, and then that's when they brought Coach O, Ed Orgeron, and they went 3-8, then 4-8, then 3-9, and that was the end of him. Then he had success at LSU. Go figure.
Yeah.
And then the next
Go
year they
fit.
brought
See,
the next year
that's
the next year, which was now 2008, they brought Houston Nutt in. They went 9-4 and they finished 15th and 14th. The next year they went 9-4 again, finished 21st and 20th. Then they went well, they went 4-8, but four of those ones got vacated.
hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, but again, yeah, and then yeah, the next year they went 2-10 with their wins vacated. The next year they went 7-6, but those wins are officially vacated. The next year they went 8-5, but seven of those wins were vacated. This is when Hugh Freeze is the coach. Same thing the next year. Now 2015, we're back to normalcy. I guess you could say they went 10-3, finished in the top 10 under Hugh Freeze. Then the next year they fell to 5-7, and those ones have since been vacated. And then that was into Hugh Freeze. And then they were 6-6, 5-7, 4-8 under Matt Luke, and then that's when Kiffin came in.
So historically, LSU has. I mean, it's pretty obvious. LSU has been the.
Yeah, LSU was having a lot of success in those 15 to 20 years that we just covered there. So
It is a bigger program. Listen, Saban won a championship there, so let's come on.
well, he's not the only one. Or Orgeron won a championship there too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
So yeah, it's
Ryan Kelly did not. The only reason I point that out is because I think in the last week or two, like in my Facebook memories, that popped up with a comment putting like, I understand why Brian Kelly is leaving Notre Dame for LSU, but that sure doesn't make me happy about it. And
oh yeah, I did see that. Okay,
look here now, like 4 years later or whatever it was, Freeman took Notre Dame to the national championship game through the playoff,
yep.
and Kelly didn't even take LSU to the playoff. So it worked out for Notre Dame in the end. So
Yes. I think Kelly just was not the right fit for LSU, unfortunately. I think Lane Kiffin is a better fit for LSU.
it'll be interesting to see where Kelly ever reemerges now at this point. I have a feeling it's not going to be at an SEC school.
No, not at all.
So,
Not at all.
but he of course was. I mean, obviously they're still. I think they're still having a fight over his buyout and everything. And I think the last thing I saw was something about his lawyers arguing that his being fired for cause or whatever is preventing him from getting another job. And it's like, well, yeah, he hasn't been hired by anybody else as of yet, and I'm not sure who still has a coaching vacancy since Penn State finally filled theirs, just as an example.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. But
Uh,
yeah, like the whole system needs to be tweaked so badly. It's like coaching changes, transfer portals, all that shit really needs to be moved until after. Somehow you have to be able to figure out a way to move all this shit until after the season is actually over, until after the national championship has actually been decided,
yep.
or at least until your season is definitely over. Like you've played your bowl game, you've lost your playoff game, whatever the case might be. And I know they say, well, it's because they got to get the students enrolled in this. And it's like, oh my God, you bend over backwards for student athletes as it is.
Yes, I know.
You can't tell me that you can't make fucking special waivers for them just to get them enrolled in classes and shit. That come on.
Yeah, I think it's horse shit, to be honest.
This is why people don't take the NCAA and this shit like kind of like this seriously. So it just
Correct. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
so there's one topic we don't normally talk about that I'd like to briefly talk about.
Okay. What is that?
Well, the baseball winter meetings begin today.
Oh, yes.
The highlight, if you will, from today's meetings, unless there's some big signing or trade that goes down, which of course can always happen,
Of course.
is that the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee is meeting to decide if they should elect anybody to the Hall of Fame. Now, this is the what used to be called the Veterans Committee, and has been mutated about 17 times over the last 8 years. Uh,
Yeah, no one takes them seriously anymore either.
well, so anyway, this is a significant ballot for a few reasons. So first of all, the candidates, these are all players whose eligibility with the Baseball Writers Association of America has lapsed or would have lapsed if they had lasted their full eligibility on the ballot. So the candidates this year are Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Carlos Delgado, Jeff Kent, Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, Gary Sheffield, and Fernando Valenzuela. Bonds and Clemens, of course, have, for no doubt Hall of Famers, but for their connection to performance enhancing drugs. Gary Sheffield, probably a little less so, but if he didn't have the PED connections that he does have, tenuous though they somewhat are, he probably would have been in by now. Uh, Jeff Kent just never got enough traction on the writer's ballot. Carlos Delgado, I don't think was on the writer's ballot for very long, if at all.
Don't really consider him a Hall of Famer, but that's fine.
Yeah, same with Fernando Valenzuela. Valenzuela uh, became much more of a cultural symbol in a lot of ways than
Yes.
was. He had a really good peak for about 7 years from 1980 to 87. I was looking at or 81 to 87. And then, like a lot of young pitchers, he couldn't keep up. He started getting injured, and he lost his effectiveness. So I don't really think he meets the Hall of Fame uh, standards in a lot of ways. But it was interesting that I thought that they included him. The fact that he passed away somewhat recently
Yeah.
probably contributed to that. Yeah, he died last October, and so this was the first time he could have been on these ballots. And Don Mattingly and Dale Murphy, I think, are both setting a record.
Probably.
They were both on the BBWAA ballot for the full 15-year eligibility period that they were allowed. That eligibility has been shortened to 10 years for newer candidates, but Mattingly and Murphy joined the ballot when it was still 15. And I believe they have both been on before these various like veterans committees. I want to say for this is their fourth time each, though it could be more. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. For Mattingly, it's definitely his fourth time before one of these committees. I've frankly lost count for Murphy. I think it's about the same.
I believe it is.
Yeah. So Murphy and Mattingly, this is essentially their 19th time being evaluated for the Hall of Fame in some way, shape, or form. I don't think anybody else ever had that. So anyway, here's what's significant about the ballot this year. They made a new rule, which I think is to serve two purposes.
Oh
All right.
boy.
So any candidate who does not receive at least 5 votes will be ineligible for consideration in the next ballot, which for this ballot won't be for another 3 years because they have a 3-year cycle where they do contemporary baseball era player ballot, contemporary baseball era non-player ballot. So we're talking executives, managers, umpires. And then the other one is like what I think they now call the classic baseball era committee, which is basically anybody who was involved in the game prior to 1980 or whose most significant contributions were prior to 1980. So all you Pete Rose fans, you'll have to wait for that ballot to come around in 2 more years for him to be considered, which I'm sure he will be. But that's another story for another time.
Yeah. We'll see when that time comes.
Right. Joe Jackson, for that matter, too, since
Yeah.
all these guys were reinstated. Um, so any candidate who does not receive at least 5 votes will be ineligible for consideration in the next ballot. Any candidate who does not receive at least 5 votes in multiple ballots will be permanently ineligible for all future ballots. So the funny thing about that is, let's say Bonds and Clemens get less than 5 votes for this ballot today.
And I will tell you straight off, something I'll get to in a second, I fully expect they will get less than 5. That means they will not be on this ballot in 2028.
Who's voting? Who votes?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Okay.
Oh
So
my.
again, so if they were not to get 5 votes today, they will not be on the ballot in 3 years when they do this. They'd have to wait another 6 years to be on the ballot. If in 6 years, if they haven't changed the rules, which of course they definitely could in 6 years,
Of course.
if in 6 years they once again don't get 5 votes, they won't be considered again ever. So they say, because obviously rules can be changed.
Of course.
So this rule, like I said, which they've started institute this is the first year that they are instituting that rule, I think is to do two things. Two things. As my fingers get blurry. One, I think it's honestly so that they maybe start considering different candidates that they haven't considered. Because, like I said, Bonds and Clemens have been on one of these ballots before. So Mattingly and Murphy been on these ballots a couple times. This is the first time, I think, for this ballot for Delgado, Kent, Sheffield, and Valenzuela for various reasons. What I'm hoping then is that some other guys who haven't really been considered by some of these ballots in the past, maybe once or twice at best, might get consideration in the future. Like might open up slots for guys like Lou Whitaker or Dwight Evans or Bobby Grich or Reggie Smith or some other, basically just other guys that they haven't really given a lot of consideration to on these
Yeah.
ballots in
Yeah.
the
Of
past. Because
course.
one of my big criticisms of these ballots is that they kept recycling the same candidates year after year after year, even with their rotating way of doing it. They kept putting the same guys on the ballots. And it's like, so you change the electing body slightly, but why should I expect a different result for any of these guys?
Yeah. Because there really isn't.
Now, last year it did work for both Dick Allen and Dave Parker. Unfortunately, Dick Allen passed away before he could finally be honored, and Dave Parker passed away during this year. I don't remember if he passed away before induction day or not, but at least he knew he got elected.
Yeah. Yeah. Just sad.
Here are,
Oh
this week they announced who will be on the committee. It
shit.
is 7 active Hall of Fame players, or 7 living Hall of Fame players, I should say, not active. 6 executives and 3 media/historians. Okay. I'll start
Ooh,
with that because that's the easiest one. The 3 media historian guys are Steve Hurt from the Elias Sports Bureau, who, if you ever watched any specials on MLB Network when they still ran those, which they haven't for years now, he was the guy with the voice like this.
oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah. He's part of the Elias Sports Bureau. He's knowledgeable. I have no issue with that guy ever being on one of these ballots because he knows his shit. The other 2 media historian members this year will be Tyler Kepner and Jason Stark, who both currently write for The Athletic. Tyler Kepner was a longtime writer for the New York Times, Jason Stark for the Philadelphia Inquirer. They're both pretty knowledgeable guys, too, who will take this seriously. No problem with those guys being on this committee.
Okay.
The executives, I have slight issues with because some of these guys I don't think should be voting. And it's funny. I was talking this with my dad last night, and I was like, I think all these guys were on the same ballot last year. Turns out they weren't, but I know these guys have voted for these things before. So anyway, the 6 executives are Mark Attanasio, who's the owner of the Brewers, Doug Melvin, who used to be general manager of the Rangers and the Brewers, and is now a senior advisor to the Brewers.
Okay.
Artie Moreno, who's the owner of the Angels, and of course is a complete asshole.
Yep.
Kim Ng, who used to be an assistant general manager for both the Yankees and the Dodgers, and was briefly general manager of the Marlins until she was unceremoniously fired a couple years ago. She does not have an active position with any baseball team that I'm aware of, so it makes me wonder why she's voting, quite frankly. Tony Regans, who used to be an executive for the Angels but hasn't been for some time. So again, I don't know what position, if any, he currently serves in baseball. And Terry Ryan, who used to be general manager of the Twins and is currently a special assignment scout for the Phillies and a special assistant to the general manager.
Hmm.
Here are the 7 Hall of Fame players. Now, again, you heard me say the names of the players who are being considered, all right? So here are the 7 Hall of Fame players who will be deciding on their contemporaries.
Oh boy, here we go.
And I say that for a reason. The 7 Hall of Fame members will be Ferguson Jenkins, Jim Cott, Juan Marichal, Tony Perez, Ozzie Smith, Alan Trammell, and Robin Yount.
Interesting.
Now, do you see why I'm being a little mocking when I say they're judging their contemporaries?
Yeah.
Dale Murphy's career began in 1976. He played through 1993. Don Mattingly began his career in 1982, played through 1995. Fernando Valenzuela first appeared in 1980, played through 1997. Roger Clemens started in 1984, played through 2007. Barry Bonds started in 1986, played through 2007. Gary Sheffield started in 1988, played through 2009. Jeff Kent started in 1992, played through 2008. Carlos Delgado started in 1993, played through 2009. Okay. Ferguson Jenkins' last year as a player was 1983.
Yep.
Jim Cott's last year as a player was 1983. Juan Marichal's last year as a player was 1975. So he literally has no overlap with any of the guys he's judging as a player.
Nope.
Tony Perez last played in 1986, Bonds' rookie year. Ozzie Smith last played in 1996. Alan Trammell last played in 1996. Robin Yount last played in 1993, Carlos Delgado's rookie year. There is so little overlap between the Hall of Fame players on the committee and the candidates on the ballot that it's a little ridiculous to say that you're being judged by your contemporaries. Why don't you have some of the more recent Hall of Famers who have been elected in, say, like the last 10 years or so? Your Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Frank Thomas, Ivan Rodriguez, Jeff Bagwell, Craig Biggio, Larry Walker, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Mike Mussina, Todd Helton, Fred McGriff, Scott Rowland. Guys who actually played against these guys, you know?
I think Greg Maddux will be a great person to.
Maddux, I think, has been on some of these ballots in the past, but it makes me wonder why he's not on this one. Like that list of Hall of Fame players would be fine for me if they were evaluating the pre-1980 players.
Yes.
I guess I can also say I also have a slight issue with when you got Juan Marichal, who's 88, Jim Cott, who's 87, and Ferguson Jenkins, who's 82, being on these ballots. I mean, they're on the old side. Tony Perez 83 too. You know, Ozzie's 70, Trammell is 67, and Yount is 70. So I don't know. I just don't see it. And Jim Cott, I can tell you, was definitely not going to vote for any guys accused of steroids.
No.
I doubt Ferguson Jenkins or Juan Marichal or Tony Perez would too. I doubt Ozzie Smith would. You know, and I don't think most of those executives are going to vote for any PED players. They'll only vote for the executives they like who allow PEDs to happen. Bud Selig. Robin Yount and Gary Sheffield were teammates in Milwaukee, but Gary Sheffield, of course, publicly said that he intentionally made errors in the hopes the Brewers would trade him.
Yep.
I have no idea what the relationship between Gary Sheffield and Robin Yount, if any, might be, but I have a feeling it's not great.
Robin might not be giving Gary Sheffield. Like when you're kind of telling me that list, I feel like there is a higher possibility for Mattingly and Murphy to actually get the votes.
Yes, I think this may be Mattingly and Murphy's, I don't want to say last chance,
but I think they have a good chance of
could,
getting in this time.
It could be their last best chance. All right.
Yeah.
Now, just for shits and giggles, let me rewind the clock 3 years here. Go back to when this ballot was up 3 years ago.
Okay.
And also just to say this, 4 people who were on the committee that year are on the committee this year: Alan Trammell, Artie Morado, Kim Ng, and Steve Hurt.
Okay.
The other 12 people are different. Like the other people on the ballot that time from players was Greg Maddux, Jack Morris, Ryan Sandberg, RIP, Lee Smith, and Frank Thomas. So a little bit more overlap between those guys and the guys they were evaluating than this year, you know?
Yeah.
So just as an example, I won't bother with naming the other executives and media people who are on the ballot.
I think they'll get in because of the sports writers, the 3 sports writers that are voting, and plus some of the new players they put in for them. I think they'll get the votes to be in.
Right. So here's the thing. So it's a 16-member committee. They still use the 75% threshold that the writer's ballot uses. So you need to get 12 votes.
So
You're
fucking
only
annoying.
just like on the writer's ballot, you can only vote for 10 when you got a list of like 20 to 30 candidates. I don't remember exactly what it is this year as an example. Um, you're only allowed to vote for 3 people. So at most, yeah. So at most, you can do the math, 16 times 3, there are at most 48 votes to be cast. And there doesn't have to be because you don't have to vote for 3 people,
That's a
obviously.
drastic drop from like 10 to 3.
Well, again, your ballot is 30 around 30 to 8. So,
Do 4, do half.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, hold on, no, I did it wrong. 8, well, let's just say it's 30 guys on the writer's ballot because that's about 8 of 30 is that's 26.6 repeating percent of the ballot, but 3 out of 10, well, that's 30% of your vote. So it's actually kind of proportional.
Okay.
Anyway, so again, 16 times 3. I'm just doing some math here real quick based upon the ballot results. Okay. So here were the results from that ballot 3 years ago. Fred McGriff was elected unanimously. He got 16 out of 16 votes.
Hmm. Remember that.
Don Mattingly got 8. Curt Schilling, very conspicuous by his absence on this ballot this year. I laughed my balls off when they did not nominate him again. Got only 7 last time, and the whole thing was he didn't want to be on the writer's ballot for his last year of eligibility. He's like, let me be judged by my peers. And then when he only got 7 votes, I said, you were judged by your peers, and they told you to suck it too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So again, Schilling got 7. Dale Murphy got 6. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Albert Bell, and Rafael Palmeiro, the latter of whom were not nominated this year, received less than 4.
Hmm.
Which is what they've done. It's like they pick a number, and it's like if the guys didn't get this many votes, they just say they got less than that. So it's like to not embarrass somebody to say they got no votes.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they don't do that. They don't do that on the writer's ballot. If somebody gets no votes, they say that guy got no votes. Um, here's the thing. So, like I said, there was a maximum of 48 votes to be cast. You subtract McGriff, Mattingly, Schilling, and Murphy's vote totals, you only have 11 left over. And that doesn't mean there were 11 other votes cast. So
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah, with Mattingly getting 8 and Murphy getting 6 last time, and with maybe people who are a bit more traditionalist in their thinking, and maybe could value that Mattingly and Murphy were clean players, were good ambassadors for the game, had their share of accolades. Mattingly won an MVP, Murphy won 2 MVPs. Even though in like a lot of like the sabermetric stuffs, they don't judge up. Like, if you go by like the Jaws score that you can find a Baseball Reference, Mattingly's like 40th among first basemen and Murphy's like 27th among center fielders, and both have plenty of non-Hall of Famers ahead of them, but you could still see it possibly happening. So we'll have to wait and see. The only thing that I can definitely say is I do not expect to see Bonds, Clemens, or Sheffield getting elected. I don't really expect to see Delgado or Valenzuela getting elected either. Jeff Kent, I still can't quite figure. He just never really gained a shit ton of traction on the writer's ballot in his 10 years. Like,
I mean, he had a good baseball career. It was solid, but it wasn't anything.
yeah, I think he holds the record for like most home runs by a second baseman, but he wasn't well liked by the media. He was contentious with the media, so that probably never helped. I don't think he was ever really regarded as a good teammate. Stuff like that. Like he did hit a fair amount of home runs. He won an MVP. He wasn't really considered a great fielder though. But this was his vote percentages in his 10 years on the ballot. 15.2, 14, 16.6, 16.7, 14.5, 18.1. So his first 6 years on the ballot, he's not moving. Then
Yeah.
he gets a jump to 27.5, up to 32.4, stays pretty steady at 32.7, and then got the final year bump of up to 46.5. So he never even got 50% of the vote.
And listen, I know he won MVP in 2000, but I still don't think he should have won that MVP.
No, he really shouldn't have. Carlos Delgado was a one and done on the ballot. He only got 3.8% in the 1 year he was on the ballot. Fernando Valenzuela got 6.3% in his first year and then fell to 3.8% the next year and so fell off. The other five guys on the ballot all use their full eligibility. Mattingly and Murphy, 15 years. Bonds, Clemens, and Sheffield were all on for 10 years. Mattingly got 28% in his first year on the ballot, and then never got as high as 20. Mattingly got 28.2% his first year, 20.3% his second year, and then never pulled higher than 16% the rest of his years on the ballot. So he never got final year bumps or anything. Now the ballot started getting crowded and everything in those later years, but especially when the steroid guys started hitting. But Murphy,
Kent's WAR was 55.4, but like just looking at like his career, one, two, three, five All-Stars in 17 years. He won
which is
an
not really,
MVP.
which is not really a lot for a Hall of Famer.
You know, he was in the MVP voting one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 years, but only cracked the top 10, one, two, four of those. But as two silver, three, one, two, three, four silver sluggers. I mean, he kind of had like a peak where like 1997 to kind of like his first year, well, up till his second year with the Dodgers, I guess. He had a decent career with the Dodgers. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just, yeah, it's very interesting. But then again, here's one of the things. Tim Raines made it. So people are going to be like, well, if Tim Raines can make it, Jeff Kent can make it.
Well, Tim Raines was better overall player than Jeff Kent.
Yes, true, true.
So Dale Murphy only exceeded 20% on the ballot in his second year, and he never got higher than that ever. He was always pretty much between like 15 and 19%, actually more like 11 and 19%. So he never got a lot of traction. And again, I think because his career kind of fell off a cliff. He didn't have like a gentle decline period. He just like all of a sudden it got to a point like he was like kind of done.
Yeah,
Which
because I'm looking
but the
back.
funny thing is that happened to Andrew Jones too. And after a couple of years where he came close to falling off the ballot, Andrew Jones is now on the cusp of election.
Yeah.
But Andrew Jones was also regarded as a much better fielder. Even though Murphy won 5 Gold Gloves, if you look at his defensive WAR stats as an example, he doesn't actually rate out that highly. He's one of those guys from the 80s who I think won Gold Gloves on reputation, kind of like the way my favorite player, Dave Winfield, did. Winfield won Gold Gloves because he had a great arm. But if you
Yeah.
look at his defensive WAR numbers, they're not good. So,
And
um,
the other thing with Jeff Kent too is like I remember seeing this months ago when I was looking up something about like worst MVP wins or some shit like that. And then when I saw this, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Jeff Kent fucking won the MVP. And I'm
yeah.
like, he had a good year, but I'm like, I know there was somebody I was rooting for, and then I was rooting for Todd Helton, who I thought was going to win, who ended up being fifth in voting, but yet led the National League in WAR,
Coors
hits,
Field effect.
RBIs, batting average, on base percentage, slugging, and OPS. And Jeff Kent led nothing in regards to any categories.
Yeah, I
He
think it
was
was.
he was top five for a couple, but he didn't lead shit. And one, two, three, four. Like Jeff Helton had a great year. I was like, and how do you not give this guy the MVP? I was definitely baffled by that.
Yeah, I think they were maybe giving Ken some bonuses because he was a second baseman and shit like that. And Helen was probably getting hurt because he, played in Coors Field and everything. Gary Sheffield didn't gain any traction on the ballot for the first 5 years he was on. He was between 11 and 13% every year for the first 5 years. Then he jumped up to 30%, then up to 40%, stayed at 40%, then jumped up to 55 and then 64%, but then his eligibility lapsed.
Mm.
So, he if he had had another year or two on the ballot, he maybe could have gotten in. Hard to say. Uh, there's not many guys who pulled that much from the writers, 63.9%, and never eventually been elected by like a veterans committee. So, uh, Barry Bonds, of course, he had the steroid thing. He was at between 34 and 36% his first 3 years. Then he jumped to 44, then to 54, then to 56, to 59, to 61, to 62, to 66. That was his arc on the ballot. And Clemens was kind of the same: 38, 35, 38, 45, 54, 57, 60, 61, 62, 65. So even like when they like paired some of the older voters off the rolls about 7, 8 years ago, their percentages grew, but their vote totals didn't ever really change.
Hmm.
So like there was just a group of voters who were just steadfast. I'm not voting for this guy, and
Yep.
I understand that. My counter, of course, will always be Bonds and Clemens were Hall of Famers before they ever started taking steroids.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And they're the only two guys that have those PED attachments that I would definitely say that about. I don't know that I would say that about Mark McGwire. I don't know that I would say that about Sammy Sosa. I don't know that I would say that about Rafael Palmeiro. If you look at Rafael Palmeiro, it's like he didn't become a power hitter until he got to Texas, where there was other guys who we pretty much know were taking steroids. You
hmm,
know, like Juan Gonzalez and Jose Canseco, and there's always been the whispers about Ivan Rodriguez, but hey, he's in the Hall of Fame, so he doesn't care anymore. Um, so it's like Bonds and Clemens are the only guys that I would say that about. Now, for the guys like A-Rod and Manny Ramirez and Robinson Cano, well, that's a different situation because there were rules in place and they got busted. So I can understand not voting for those guys.
I mean, looking at Palmeiro's career, like he started off with the Cubs and we traded him because we had Mark Grace. So it was kind of a toss-up who we taking, Mark Grace or Rafael Parmelo, Parm, Palmeiro. I can't talk now.
Palmeiro.
Palmeiro. Um, then he went to Texas, then he went to Baltimore, and then he went back to Texas and then Baltimore. I mean, eh,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it was funny because he was college teammates with Will Clark, and it was like the Rangers jilted him by signing Will Clark after the 1993 season. So that's why he
Yeah,
went to Baltimore. And then I think when he left Baltimore to go back to Texas, Will Clark went from Texas to Baltimore.
yeah, that's funny. Like his home run number, I mean, his best home run numbers when he was 99 and when he was 34. And then 2 years later, 40, he hit 47 again when he was 36. Um,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. His first several years, he had 14 home runs in like half a season in 1987. Then it was eight in his last year with the Cubs, eight in his first year with the Rangers, then 14. Then he jumps up to 26. I don't know if that was the year Texas moved into their new ballpark or not. I don't think it was quite yet. Then 22, then 37, then 23 in the strike year. And then, yeah, now he's playing in Camden Yards too. Uh, 39, 39, 38, 43, 47, 40, 39. The 47 year he went back to Texas. 39, 47, 43, 38. He's in his late 30s now doing all this. But again, this is also 1995 to 2003. So this is when there was still no steroid testing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's challenging. Yeah, and the thing too was like, I know he was tagged on the report, but like, how many years was he doing it? Like, was it a couple or you? And that's the challenging part. Like, how many years were they really doing it? You don't know.
Yeah. And I'll still never forgive Rafael Palmeiro for winning a gold glove in 1999 when he played mostly at DH.
Yeah, that was funny, ridiculous.
He played 28 games at first base that year and he won the Gold Glove. It was one of the
Yeah,
and it was like it just proved that like the Gold Glove voters weren't paying attention. And one of the other reasons I was pissed about that was because I was pretty sure I felt that Tino Martinez deserved the Gold Glove that year, and since he was a Yankee, I of course wanted him to win it. So
no, I get it. Yeah, it's hard with some of those players, being on a report. You just don't know how many years they were doing it. You know what I mean? So it's how skewed are their numbers based off what they did and all that jazz and just being, maturing as a player and getting better. So it's a bit challenging.
yep. And
That's
we
why
could
to me at this point, I really don't care. Just put them in. Their career shows the stats worthy, just do it.
I've seen a lot of people argue, and I can buy this argument. You can't tell the history of baseball without this guy.
Seriously, you can't.
I get that. The thing of it is, they don't need to have a plaque in the hall with all the other plaques to tell the story of baseball, though, because the Hall of Fame is more than just the hall of plaques with all the guys who have been inducted. There's this
True.
whole museum, which has all these artifacts and everything, and it's like that's the whole thing. Like, is there ever anytime like somebody would say, "Well, Pete Rose been kept out of the Hall of Fame"? It's like they've had Pete Rose artifacts in the Hall of Fame for years. You know, the whole thing is that you want to truly tell the story of baseball. Yeah, you probably need those guys in there, but you need to tell the whole story, and that includes the bad parts. Whether that's segregation, whether that's the Black Sox, whether that's the steroid scandal. You
Yep.
need to be open and honest with your fans because, yeah,
It's history. It happened. What are you going to do? You can't change it. You
right,
you can't sit here and wipe it away. It's not going to go away.
yeah,
It's never going to go away. So just listen. They had the career they did, scandal or not. We don't know how many years any of these players were doing it on a consistent basis, or what form of steroids they were doing, because there was different multiple forms that some give you more oomph than others. So at the end of the day, if their careers are worth it, vote them in. But you need to have a section of this like the 90s. We had a great first part of it. We had this is what happened in the beginning of the 90s. We had a lockout, we had a strike. Then we came back with this big boom, but this big boom was brought to you by performance enhancing drugs, that technically were not illegal to use within baseball until after a certain time. And then, this is what happened in the early 2000s, and we
yeah,
we, we move on.
and it's also again that so many of the people who, really for no other better term, allowed it to happen, turned a blind eye to it happening, profited it,
Because they needed it to.
profited it from it happening.
They needed it to, though.
Yeah, everybody's the way the history is always going to be written is what really saved baseball after the player strike of 1994, the McGuire Sosa home run chase of 1998.
Yeah.
I don't like saying that because I feel like most maybe, and again, I don't really have the numbers and I don't know what they are or how to find them, like overall attendance numbers or shit like that. I feel like the game came back pretty quickly after the 94 strike. I know it did for me because my team was in the playoffs for the first year of my life, the first year after the strike.
Yeah.
They were going to the playoffs. They were going to the playoffs in 1994. They were in the playoffs in 1995. I had my heart broken when they lost the series to the Mariners, did the Yankees. But then the next year they're in the World Series. So baseball was
I
back for me.
I do.
I didn't need the
Yeah.
McGuire Sosa home run chase. Maybe other people did, but again, and it's not just that all those people profited from it too. Bud Selig got elected to the Hall of Fame. Joe Torre, Tony La Russa, and Bobby Cox were all unanimous inductees to the Hall of Fame as managers. They all managed guys who we are pretty sure were taking shit. La Russa
And
managed McGuire and Canseco.
yeah.
Torre managed Clemens, Andy Pettit, who admitted to taking HGH. Later A-Rod, though he didn't win any World Series with A-Rod.
So,
Bobby Cox, I can't remember what guys with the Braves got accused, but it's like almost anybody from like that era. It's like you almost have to basically anybody who played from say like 1990 to like 2004.
I believe
It's
like
like
after
you can almost assume they probably took steroids at some point.
yeah. I mean, I believe what the one show that did some stats on, like, talked about the home run derby contest in 98, which technically started off with McGuire and Griffey until Griffey fell off, and then Sosa took fire in June. That the year when baseball came back to full swing, it slowly started getting back to where it was, but there were a lot of markets that were still down. Some of the big market teams, were still down, but were almost back to where they normally were. But there were still a lot of markets where baseball was down, sales were down, tickets were down, merchandise was down, so on and so on. So this kind of 98 really kind of gave a jump start, throwing nitrous
Yeah.
into a Ford Mustang to win a race. It was kind
Oh,
of one of
yeah.
those jolts.
1998 was a magical year. I mean, 1998 was split between my junior and senior years of high school. And for me, it was more than just McGuire Sosa home run chase. It was the Yankees winning 114 games and
Yeah.
then winning the World Series. Watching arguably the greatest team ever. I say arguably. But it's like that was such a for me as a Yankee fan, it was such a fun year.
There was a lot going on that year
Yeah,
with
but
multiple
it was such
things.
a fun year to every time you turn on the TV and watch your team, we're gonna win today. You know,
You have a 95% chance of winning that game
yeah,
every year,
and
every
it,
day, I should say.
and it was amazing because they started on the West Coast and they like couldn't get their heads out of their ass for like the first week of the season and they were dealing with like rainouts and shit. And then, um, shit, was it the '98? I can't remember now if it was the '98 season or if it was the '99 season. They had to postpone a game at Yankee Stadium because a piece of the stadium fell off.
Oh yeah, I do
Uh,
remember that. I remember.
and so like they postponed the game because they were like going to save it. And then they went and they played one of the games against whoever it was they were playing at over at Shea.
Oof, oof.
Well, it was hysterical because Darryl Strawberry was with the Yankees and he hit a home run in that Shea Stadium game. So it was like back into like, when he was with the Mets. And they did the thing out in Shea Stadium where like they lifted like the apple that they always would raise, but they like stopped it when the Mets logo on it started to appear.
We'll go so far with that, then we're
Yeah.
going to stop it.
But still, it was like, how fitting is that for like arguably the greatest home run hitter in New York Mets history at the time to be playing this game back in Shea Stadium for the Yankees and hit a home run.
Hitting a home
But
run in
yeah,
that
it
stadium.
was, yeah, 1998 was such a fun season because there was so much fun stuff that was going on. Even like if it wasn't involved in the pennant race or the home run chase, there were a lot of other great stories that were happening in baseball that year. It was like arguably one of the greatest seasons ever in the history of the sport. So, you
Yeah,
know.
no, absolutely.
Yeah. So they'll be announcing that tonight on MLB Network or either at like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, somewhere around there. I don't get MLB Network as part of YouTube TV, so I'll have to see if they stream it online, which I think they generally don't. So I'll just basically have to wait for the announcement to come through. But like I said, I'm always fascinated by the Hall of Fame, and so I'll be interested to see what players get elected. Oh, let's do this real quick. If any of these 10 players or 8 players got elected, what cap would be on their Hall of Fame plaque? So for Mattingly, it's obvious he played his entire career with the Yankees.
That's easy,
Yeah. Murphy would have to be the Braves. He played all but a couple seasons of his career with the Braves.
obviously.
Valenzuela, he ended up bouncing around for a bunch of different teams in the '90s, but he played by far his longest for the Dodgers, and he's such a Dodger icon, so he'd have to go in
It
as
would be if he was not a Dodgers, I think people would riot that shit.
yeah. Now the other 5 are slightly more difficult. Bonds would go in as a Giant. He played more years for the Giants. He won most of his MVPs with the Giants, not discounting his Pittsburgh career, but he'd have to
But
go in
no,
as
it would be San Francisco all day long.
yeah. Now the others, it gets a little more interesting. Now, if you were going to base it solely on like number of years played for a franchise, then Clemens would have to go in as a Red Sox. And he really probably should. I remember years ago though, he said like he'd prefer to go in as a Yankee. That was so long ago now though, I don't know if that's still the way it is.
Viable. Yeah,
And they might not even give him the choice.
true.
Delgado would probably have to go in as a Blue Jay. He played 12 years for the Blue Jays, 1 for the Marlins, and 4 for the Mets. So I think he'd probably go in as a Blue Jay.
Yeah, Blue
Now, the
Jay.
other 2 guys, Kent played basically half a year for the Blue Jays, then like 3.5 for the Mets, half a year for the Indians, 6 for the Giants, 2 for the Astros, and 4 for the Dodgers. So he'd probably have to go in as a Giant too, because that's also where he won his MVP, and I think it's where he had his most sustained success.
Yeah, yeah.
Sheffield. Oh my God. He might be one of those guys they just say, ah, fuck it, you're going in with no logo on your cap. They may not give him the choice of picking a logo because it's saying, look, you can't pick a logo and we can't pick a logo, so you're going to be one of these like no logo guys.
Just put the MLB logo on there.
He played for the Brewers from 88 to 91, the Padres from 92 to 93, the Marlins from 93 to 98, the Dodgers from 98 to 01, the Braves from 02 to 03, the Yankees from 04 to 06, the Tigers from 07 to 08, and the Mets in
Jesus.
09. Now, if you went solely based on number of years played, it's the Marlins, the Florida Marlins, not the
I
Miami
think
Marlins.
I see. I don't know which team he had more success with either.
Well, he
I
won a
want
World
to say
Series. He
Florida.
won a World Series with the Marlins. He went to hold on, I gotta look something else up to see
Like
like
stat wise and success wise, I kind of feel like I'm leaning towards the Marlins.
I want to see real quickly. which teams he represented in the All-Star game. So of his 9 All-Star appearances, 1 was as a Padre, 2 as a Marlin, 3 as a Dodger, 1 as a Brave, and 2 as a Yankee.
Hmm.
I wonder he probably must hold the record then for most teams represented in the All-Star game because that's 5.
Gee, that's crazy.
Yeah. Um,
I think I'm still leaning towards the Marlins.
I just want to pull up his stats real quick. I think he hit more home runs as a Dodger than as a Marlin, but
That could be because Marlin was more early in his career.
he had 122 home runs with the Marlins and 129 with the Dodgers. And
6 run difference,
his next highest total was 76 with the Yankees.
or 7, I should say.
He accumulated more WAR with the Dodgers than the Marlins, 17 to 13.2.
Hmm.
He had an overall better batting line with the Dodgers than with the Marlins. But again, he played more years with the Marlins than anybody else. And like I said, he also won a World Series with the Marlins. So
I think the Marlin fans would be upset if he didn't have their logo on there after helping them win a World Series.
would they though? Because I still, of course, always like to make the contention there is no such thing as a Florida Marlin fan, or as it is now, a Miami Marlin fan. But
Yeah, I know.
seriously, I honestly think they might just throw their hands up with Sheffield if he gets elected and say, "You're going in with no logo on your cap."
Yeah, just put the MLB logo on there. It'd be fun.
Well, there are a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame who have no logo on their cap.
Yeah.
Um, I got a list of that somewhere. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I should be able to. I can't for some reason. I don't know why. Because there are some surprising people that don't have uh, logos on their cap. Ah, here it is. Okay. So, like, the Arizona Diamondbacks have one player with their logo on his Hall of Fame plaque. You should know who that is.
Wait, there's what? I'm sorry.
The Diamondbacks, for example, have one player in the Hall of Fame that has their logo on his plaque. You should know who that is.
What, Randy Johnson?
Randy Johnson. The Rockies now have 2 with Todd Helton and Larry Walker. The Astros now have 3 with Jeff Bagwell, Craig Biggio, and Billy Wagner. The Royals still only have 1, George Brett. The
Oof.
Angels only have 1, Vladimir Guerrero. The Marlins still, as of this moment, have none. So I could, based upon that as well, see baseball maybe saying, "Hey, Gary, please wear a Marlins cap on your plaque,"
Yeah.
just to have them represented. The Brewers only have 2, Paul Molitor and Robin Yount. The Mets, believe it or not, only have 2, Mike Piazza and Tom Seaver. The Yankees have
Really?
22.
Well, of course.
Just to be fair to you, my dear friend, the Cubs have 11 and the White Sox have 8.
Oh, 11 and 8. Okay.
Yeah. Even the Mariners are up to 3 now with Griffey, Edgar, Martinez, and Ichiro. The Rays still have none. The Blue Jays only have 1, which is Robbie Alomar, which they probably kind of wish they didn't at this point because of what happened with him.
Yeah.
And the Nationals still have none. And don't see them getting one anytime soon. Like, even if Harper gets elected to the Hall of Fame, I'm not sure he will have a Nationals cap on.
You know what? Speaking of Hall of Fame, I've only been to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I've never been to the Pro Football or the MLB Hall of Fame.
I've never been to the Football Hall of Fame. The only time I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, I was 8 years old. I was too young to appreciate it. I need to get there again someday, but I don't have money for shit like that right now. It's like I should really go there again with my dad. So,
Yeah, it's
uh,
one of the things. Those that's another thing I need to do. Like I've been to the hockey one. I mean, that was like in my mid 20s, you know, but it was cool when I was in
mhm.
Toronto for that. But yeah, the football and the baseball one, they were definitely viable for me to travel to. So I need to, yeah, it's something I need to do.
Yeah. So not only did when I made this list, and I still update it every time somebody gets elected to the Hall of Fame, or once they announce what plaque they're, what logo they're going in with.
Hmm.
I separated the list between current teams defunct / relocated teams. So that includes the Boston Bean Eaters, the Boston Braves, the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Brooklyn Superbas, which is the Dodgers, the Milwaukee Braves, the Montreal Expos, the New York Giants, the Philadelphia A's, and the Washington Senators.
Okay.
The Expos, for those wondering, had 3 Hall of Fame caps: Gary Carter, Andre Dawson, and Tim Raines. I also have like a section of Negro League players who were wearing obvious Negro League caps, which includes the Hilldale Daisies, the Homestead Grays, the Kansas City Monarchs, the New York Lincoln Giants, and the Newark Eagles. And then there are a total of 92 players who don't have a cap logo. And this is for various different reasons. And some of them I have in bold type, so I'm not sure why that is. I might need to go back and try to figure out why. Some of the more prominent players who have no logo on their cap: Grover Cleveland Alexander, Cap Anson, Frank Home Run Baker, Yogi Berra.
Cap Anson doesn't have it?
No, Yogi Berra doesn't have a logo. And you know why? Because I made a note of this. Yogi's head is turned on his plaque. So it's not like a straight look at his face. His head is like tilted.
I'm curious to understand why Cap Anson doesn't have a Cubs logo on his hat.
It may be because of when it was done, because a lot of the guys that don't have cap logos are some of the oldest Hall of Famers in terms of like oldest as in when they were inducted. We're
Gotcha.
talking back in like the 30s and 40s.
Gotcha.
Eddie Collins doesn't have a cap logo. He played a lot for both the Philadelphia A's and the White Sox, of course. Charlie Gehringer of the Detroit Tigers, who played his whole career for the Tigers, but his head is turned. Josh Gibson, famed Negro leaguer, doesn't have his a logo. Roy Halladay ended up going in with no logo, and I think that was a mutual decision between his family and the Hall of Fame, because he unfortunately passed away when he was elected.
Yes.
So he's one of the more recent ones that has them. Rogers Hornsby doesn't have a logo because his head is turned. Catfish Hunter doesn't have a logo. Tony La Russa doesn't have a logo. His head is slightly turned. Yeah, I guess he couldn't decide between the A's and the Cardinals. And maybe the White Sox. And maybe the White Sox too, but probably more so between the A's and the Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Go in with the Cardinals.
Connie Mack doesn't have a logo, but that's of course because Connie Mack didn't wear a uniform. He wore a suit and tie, so Greg Maddux doesn't have a logo because he didn't want to decide between the Cubs and the Braves, so his head is slightly turned. Fred McGriff doesn't have a cap logo. So that's interesting, Fred McGriff, because he bounced around almost to the same extent that Sheffield did, going from the Blue Jays to the Padres to the Braves to the Rays to the Cubs to the Dodgers.
Yeah. True.
Johnny Mize, he split a lot of time between the Cardinals and the Giants and then finished his career with the Yankees. Mike Mussina went in with no logo because he's played an almost equal time with the Orioles and the Yankees. He played slightly more with the Orioles. Mel Ott has no cap on because otherwise he'd have to be a New York Giant, of course.
Yeah.
George Sisler has no cap on. Tris Speaker does not have a cap logo. Honus Wagner doesn't have a cap logo because his head is slightly turned. Paul Wainer, legendary Pittsburgh Pirate, doesn't have a logo on his. Then I also have a few who I said I wasn't sure what their cap logo was, which includes Cy Young and Nap Lajoie. I may need to go try to revisit those just to try to figure that one out. But I think what I was basing them off is I'm pretty sure I looked at the picture of their plaques on the Hall of Fame website. And if I couldn't figure out what the cap logo was by looking from the picture of the plaque on the Hall of Fame website, then something's wrong.
Yeah, true.
It's like either the plaque's not good enough or the picture's not good enough. I don't know which.
One of the two.
So yeah, I mean, Baseball Hall of Fame, I'm always fascinated by it. And we can talk about the writer's ballot when it gets closer to when that election gets announced. But there's really only 2 guys I think have a chance this year: Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones. There's no good first timers on the ballot this year. Like the best newcomer to the Hall of Fame ballot this year is Cole Hamels. And no disrespect to Cole Hamels, but I think he falls slightly below the Hall of Fame standards. Even as our Hall of Fame standards for starting pitchers need to adjust to the because we can't judge guys by 300 wins and 3,000 strikeouts really anymore. I mean, Verlander and Scherzer and Greinke and Kershaw, yeah, we know all those guys are getting in.
Yeah, of course.
Like the standards are going to be lowered slightly for starting pitchers going forward. Next year's Hall of Fame ballot we have the very interesting case of Buster Posey. A lot of people feel that he's a shoo-in, and a lot of people also say, yeah, but he doesn't have like gaudy counting stats. Like he only has 1,500 hits. And I also say, yeah, but he was a catcher. But he was a catcher, and people say he was a cornerstone of 3 World Series champions.
Yep.
And other people say, but his WAR isn't that high. And then somebody else will say, okay, but on for catchers, it's still comparable to Hall of Famers, and all kinds. So that'll be a fun discussion next year, Buster Posey.
Yeah. You have to judge him based off his position, which he
Yeah,
played catcher most of his career.
yeah. So that's the thing. You should be judging against other catchers and stuff. And then in 2 years, we get the shoe-in of Albert Pujols. We get the how much vote
Which I
support.
guarantee you won't be unanimous, but go ahead.
Probably won't, but he should be. I
Yeah.
mean,
Another one that should be that gets left
yeah.
behind.
We get the just how much support will he get of twice suspended PED user Robinson Cano.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we'll get the really fun catcher debate, and I use that term with extreme sarcasm, of Yadier Molina.
I hate that guy just because he's
I
a Cardinal. I
I am
respect
of
his career, but I hate him.
I am of the opinion, as good of a defensive player as he probably was, 9-time Gold Glove, 4-time Platinum Glove. His offense. He was only really a good offensive player for about 3 years,
Yeah.
like really good. Anything else was like slightly above average to below average. His WAR total, even for a catcher, is on the lower side. It's barely over 40. On the JAWS scoreboard among catchers, he ranks 22nd,
But he's going to get in.
which
Guarantee
puts
it.
it, which puts him behind non-Hall of Famers like Jason Kendall, Jorge Posada, Bill Freehan, Thurman Munson, and also behind Buster Posey, just for that reference. So, but yeah, I think he's to me like the Omar Vizquel candidate, where people are going to say his defense was so good that that should get him in, even though he was kind of meh offensively.
Yep.
But at least, to the best of our knowledge, um, Yadier Molina does not have any unsavory off the field issues the way Omar Vizquel has.
No, not in that manner. No, no, no.
Well, nothing where he was accused of beating his wife and
Yeah.
sexually assaulting a bat boy. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So Molina's good on that aspect.
You know what's funny? Like Omar Vizquel was kind of on track for election until those allegations came out, and almost all of his support evaporated. Apparently, he has lobbied people though in the years since.
I'm not
Like,
surprised.
like there was a story that came out like around like last year's Hall of Fame election that he was doing that, and Keith Law, formerly of ESPN, currently of The Athletic, who I read a lot, he posted on Blue Sky recently. He was responding to like the story that somebody else had posted months ago about it, saying that Vizquel called him lobbying him too, because he's a Hall of Fame voter now. And it's like, I really feel I can understand why guys lobby to get into the Hall of Fame. It's again, there is no higher honor.
Oh yeah.
I feel like if you're going to lobby for inclusion into any sports Hall of Fame, probably best to let other people do it for you.
Yeah.
Whether
Don't do it
directly
yourself.
or whether like directly as in like I'm calling on behalf of Omar Vizquel, and Omar Vizquel knows you're calling on behalf of him and is okay with it, or somebody who's not associated with you in any way but is just doing it because they're doing it. So, oh boy,
What?
they're revealing the bracket.
Oh shitums.
Number 1, Ohio State.
Don't fuck with me.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to see how you'd react. No, number 1 is obviously Indiana. Oh, and just to recap on that game real quickly, did you think Mendoza? Okay, were you watching that game last night?
Yes.
Did you think Mendoza was like fucked when he took that hurt shot on the first play?
I was worried.
The way he was down and everything, I was like, oh my god, you tell me this game's going to be over because he got injured on the first play. Luckily, he came back right away, but
Yes. Yes. That I was like, oh fuck. Here we go.
no, oh boy, I don't know if this was going to have any impact as we go. But number 2, Ohio State. I
That
don't know that I agree with that,
that's
but
bullshit.
well, again, this will make Will this hurt Alabama now? I wonder. I really, really wonder. See, I still really kind of think that Ohio State is the best team. I know they couldn't run the ball at all last night, and I know that was also skewed by Sayan's negative rushing yards, which are really sacks because of the screwy ruling still with college football, which they should really just change at this point because nobody runs the straight option anymore.
They just said it makes a lot of sense to have Ohio State at 2. Shut. I can't anymore. I
Okay,
can't.
it does, but it makes more sense to have Georgia at number 2, in my view.
Yes.
And again, I don't like the SEC. So
But Georgia proved last night that they're a top 3 team.
yeah, well, so here's the thing now. So
all they did was flip flop
yeah,
fucking Indiana and Ohio State.
so
Georgia's 3.
So Georgia's number 3. So I can already hear people probably screaming this. And to be honest, I don't know if I would necessarily not be one of them. You're going to have people screaming, your 2 best teams are going to play in the semifinal. Didn't people say that last year too with Ohio State, whoever they played in the semifinal, while the other semifinal was Notre Dame, Penn State? I can't remember now. I don't remember who Ohio State played. Number 4 has got to be Texas Tech. I can't see how it wouldn't be.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
Yep, Texas Tech. All right. So nothing totally unexpected so far.
Just disappointing. Texas Tech goes into their championship game, whoops on BYU. Georgia plays a tough Alabama team and fucking manhandles them. And Ohio State loses a tough game where they couldn't fucking run the ball. They made multiple mistakes.
Their defense still played really well, though.
Yeah, their defense played well, but their offense did not look good, and they lost.
Well, here's a quick question. I never really had the sound on because I have grown to hate the sound of Gus Johnson's voice. Was Brian Hartline coaching for Ohio State last night?
I think so.
Because he's taking the South Florida head coaching job.
Dude, I don't remember now.
Because I hate using those as excuses, but it's kind of almost understandable. At least to me. Number 5, Oregon. Not much of a surprise there. Well, let me find. Was Brian Hartline at the Indiana game? Okay, yeah.
I don't remember if he was.
Yes, Brian Hart. Well, this is the AI overview. Yes, Brian Hartline was at the Big Ten championship game against Indiana on December 6, 2025, as Ohio State's offensive coordinator, despite having already accepted the head coaching job at USF, though many fans and analysts questioned his play calling and presence during the Buckeyes' loss. His presence? Years ago, Tom Coughlin accepted the head coaching job at Boston College. He stayed with the Giants as their wide receivers coach through the end of the playoff when they won the Super Bowl against the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a controversy?
Yeah, it's not.
Well, okay. From the fan-sided Ohio
Ole Miss is number 6.
Okay, no surprise. From the fan-sided Ohio State blog, Scarlet in Game, their headline is, after loss versus IU, it's time for Ohio State to send Brian Hartline on his way. If this is how Hartline is going to prepare for games after accepting a head coaching job, it's time Ohio State sends him on his way. Look, if he's truly focusing that much on being the new South Florida head coach, then maybe I guess I can understand that. If he's not 100% dedicated to getting his offense, I guess. But it's like, dude, this is the guy who directed your offense to get to the point where you are.
Yes.
So sports is such a what have you done for me lately profession,
Texas A&M number 7.
Again, no surprise. Oklahoma will be number 8. It's not until number 9 that things are going to get interesting. See, I also remember being very disappointed when I saw that Brian Hartline was taking the job at South Florida because I really wanted the Penn State to go after him, and I have no idea if they did in any way. And like I saw him listed on like several articles where they were mentioning potential Penn State coaching options, a couple weeks ago. But I had no idea if they ever reached out to him or were interested in him.
Yeah,
Remember
Oklahoma's
Oklahoma?
8.
Yeah. And I was wondering, I know in the NFL, if you're like an offensive or defensive coordinator and another team wants to interview you for head coach, your current team can't stop you from doing that.
Yeah, you have to do it on your date in between. Like you have to have like a team day off to do that, or do it after a full day of team activities or some shit like
Right.
that.
Right. But it's like they can't say, no, you're our offensive/defensive coordinator. We can't let you go interview for a promotion.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's rules like that in college. Like, so I'm like, Ohio State let Brian Hartline take the job at South Florida, which is not even in a Power Five conference.
Well, here we go. Resume comparison between Bama, Notre Dame, and Miami.
But
Fuck.
like, would Brian Hartline be prevented from talking to Penn State by Ohio State? You know what I mean? Because they're in the same conference, they're conference rivals. Would Ohio State say, no, we don't want you going to Penn State, find opportunity somewhere else? I don't know if they can make that determination or if they can block that or not. So
I don't think they can in college.
yeah, it would seem petty.
You gotta
But
be fucking kidding me.
all right, well, now I'm officially worried.
Get the fuck out of here.
So we're going to get a rematch between Alabama and Oklahoma, and we could potentially have a rematch between Notre Dame and Texas A&M.
Fucking joke. What a fucking joke.
Don't anybody listening to this, or precious few viewers that we have, viewers and listeners, don't ever try to tell me there is not a pro SEC.
There's an
bias,
SEC
because
biased.
they just put the first 3-loss team in this expanded playoff because they were Alabama and because they lost in the SEC title game. They lost to Florida State, who went 5-7. I don't care if it was in August. Yeah. Okay. Here's another thing too. If you're going to tell me then that you're putting Alabama in, despite losing to Florida State back in August, how much should Notre Dame's loss to Miami back in August mean? Especially when you just showed me those metrics that show Notre Dame had better FPI, strength of schedule, and strength of record ratings than Miami. I need to protect my phone here, so in case I suddenly slam my hand down on my desk.
Booger McFarland's very surprised that Alabama got in. I don't know how power ranking Florida State could be still top 30. Miami. What a fucking joke.
How do you drop them behind them when they've been ahead of them for the last 5 fucking weeks?
Yep.
Seriously, if this is how you're gonna fucking run this shit, okay, look, I will say it again. Notre Dame wanted to be in the playoff. They needed to beat Texas A&M or Miami. That's all they had to do. But this is my point. If you're going to have rankings for a month leading up to this where Notre Dame is ahead of Miami every fucking week, and then at the last minute you change, what are you doing?
Look at this. Notre Dame is better in every single category they're putting up, except for the head-to-head matchup.
They're basically the same everywhere else. So here's the thing, to your point. We do this week in and week out. Yeah. It's a beauty pageant. Now that the season is done, it's a resume contest. And so it's very easy to go back and compare these two teams when it comes to the resume contest, because now the head-to-head has to come into effect. The resume didn't change from Tuesday. I know, but everybody's resume is complete from the standpoint of their resume was already complete. But today doesn't change their resume.
Exactly. Their resumes were completed last week when they fucking ranked them.
And, this is the other thing, too. I read the thing, somebody said, the only way that their resumes could really be tweaked this week was by Boise State playing, because Notre Dame played them. There were no Miami opponents playing this week. So fuck this fucking committee, because I'm sorry. They basically all of a sudden, if they had ranked Miami ahead of Notre Dame from the start of this,
It would have been
saying,
fine.
if Miami beat Notre Dame head to head, I'd be fine. Notre Dame made that bed, they got to lay in it. But they didn't. And now they change it like this. This is so fucking stupid.
It is. Doesn't matter, Booger. Doesn't matter the whole entire season. Notre Dame and Miami seasons were done, and they still ranked Notre Dame ahead of Miami at that time. So now you're gonna flip flop at the last second. All right, fans. It is. We are going to.
Well, now that I've had a meltdown on air,
It's all good. I'm going to go put up some Christmas decorations.
yes, I am going to try to finish giving a Christmas list to my loved ones if they so endeavor to get me any Christmas presents. In a lot of ways, I don't really want them to, but that's another story. And I got a couple of things I want to try to do. I got to go to the grocery store, and we need to do some ironing. Yeah, we all got stuff. At least I don't have to watch football today because the Giants are off. So
Yep, I have a late game, so 4:30, so I can get some stuff done and get some food before then. So I'm good.
Who doth your beareth playeth todayeth?
At Green Bay.
Oh, that's a big game. Oh, you know what? Oh, that's the
Be-
425 game.
It's the
If
game of
that
the
game
week.
is on, I may just turn that on just to have it on. And I think like I just like sit here and watch, but
Yeah, it's a game of the week, supposed to be so. But yes.
my mother texted me a few minutes ago. I didn't notice this before they revealed the bracket. These broadcasters just do not like ND, and ND is responsible. Get into a conference. And Notre Dame being in a conference this year, I don't think would have done necessarily anything to help them.
I mean, based on their record, could have taken
Yeah,
them to
based
the
on their record,
championship
theoretically,
game.
if they had been in the ACC and they had gone to the ACC title game, but I mean,
Yeah.
that also wouldn't be saying a whole hell of a lot. Trust me, people would have found a way to denigrate them, saying, "Oh, so what? They won the ACC. The ACC was shit this year." Seriously,
Yeah.
somebody would have found a way to say that. Guaranteed.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So we got Alabama, Oklahoma, and Tulane, Mississippi rematches in the first round.
Yep.
And
And
then we
then
get the two
Tulane
teams
and
that Notre Dame that beat Notre Dame playing each other, and then we get Oregon more than likely stomping all over poor James Madison. Hey, I'll root for James Madison in that game. I don't give a shit,
oh,
But
same here. All right.
I don't know. I look at this bracket right now. I will be blatantly honest. I know the teams that had to buy. First team out Notre Dame, second team out BYU.
Yep.
I look at this bracket right now, just gut feeling. I think we're going to get a Big Ten title game rematch in the national championship, though I still very much allow that Georgia could easily beat Ohio State. But again, the teams that had the buys last year kind of fucked up. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows how this year will play out? All right, then, fans, we are going to sign off. And like our friend, our third wheel likes to say, I hope you finished with us.